Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Synctank.
Volume.
Uh-oh. You sound
You're
you muted.
He left in shame. He's like, all right, this is it.
All right.
So welcome to
What is-
Synctank. We got David, Eddie, and me, Thomas. And Xirtus slinked out in shame, and he's not going to be joining us tonight.
Yeah, no,
This
it's embarrassing when your volume doesn't work like that. I can totally understand.
I feel
they
like
just-
tonight's topic's going to have something to do with Mormonism. I don't know why I have that feeling. It might be the hundreds of Mormon AI-related images that Andreas has been dropping in chat.
He had a great
becoming
interview with
fanaticism.
the grand nephew of what's his name, founder of Mormonism. I can't think right now. We got volume.
You can tell us.
It's still quiet.
What
Oh.
happened to you? Wait, did we
The
mute you?
the Grand Wizard stole his voice. It's actually like one of the fairy tales, isn't it?
It's weird
He's-
because I was just
he
listening
sold
to
his
you right
soul to
before we went on the
Ursula.
show.
Yeah, that's how the Little Mermaid worked, right?
Oh wait, you see, you can't unmute. You have the mute icon.
It says that it's the icon has it that you're muted. You can't unmute that from your end. What do we do?
This is going to be the first pantomime episode of Synctank.
Yeah. Just
Okay, we
keep
got it.
going. Just keep
There
going.
we go.
Was
There
it
we
working?
go.
Basically.
Oh,
Is it
yeah,
coming back?
Yeah.
Oh. I think it's because I'm running so much AI. Like, honestly, I had way too much stuff running in the background. I
Maybe
have
you have a-
comfy UI going, and I'm just like, so I figured, like, I want to start doing, you know how, I just want to do what I always wanted to do. So back at CNN, like, we'd make, like, news, and I just wanted it to be like when they look at a picture of a bunch of soldiers, like, on the beach, but it's my face. You know what I mean? So it's like, I just can't wait now that we can have all that technology. We'll have all these like women and children like running, and all these people on the internet be like, "Oh my god, it's so horrible!" But then I'll share. Have you seen the picture? Have you seen the picture of Andreas' face in the shape of Palestine? I think that's where we're at.
Is Andreas the wagging dog?
This is why they silenced me. I'm pretty sure because they knew I was going to say that. How
you-
have you been?
Do you remember that Andy Kaufman thing where he wanted to have that show that was basically what Tim and Eric ended up becoming?
Yeah.
Where it's just like where you have these like imperfections and problems, technical difficulties occurring, but then everyone's like hitting the screen. They want people to like hit the television. That's like kind of the idea. And it's like, no, that's part of it.
Yeah. People are gonna have to get up and they're gonna have to adjust their television sets. Andy, we don't want people to get up and adjust their television sets. Yeah.
There's been a few good movies where like a bug or something will crawl across like the screen or something. I can't remember the exact ones, but I always thought those was cool.
Well, that was or in porn when it's squirting and then it like gets on the screen, so you're just like it becomes kind of meta, you know. Yeah, sorry.
I'm worried to like
did I hear it correctly?
I'm worried to show some of the AI art I've been working on because like I got to the point where I figured out the prompts well enough for Bing that like some of them are not safe for work. So I'm pretty proud of myself. But I'm gonna see if I can avoid. See, yeah, you can see where that goes very quickly. But yeah, so I was thinking a lot about. So I talked to Ed Annunziata this week, who made Rebecca the Dolphin. He just called me up randomly, and then I was supposed to talk to him today, but it's been a crazy day, as you guys noticed. So I'm going to call him a little bit later. But one of the things I've been thinking about, I'm talking to Tad Stones again, creator of Darkwing Duck, and I just am thinking so much about Gadget because after talking, so you guys remember I talked to Joseph Smith's nephew or grandnephew, whatever that is. So Garrett, Seth Garrett, and it's been really interesting because he's like all about. He's like, yeah, this is the answer. It makes all the sense to what I'm looking for and trying to figure out. And what he's been working on is trying to understand the divine feminine, which is something I think we kind of are lucky to.
Wait a minute, are we talking about Rescue Rangers with Gadget, or was there a Gadget in Darkwing Duck that I don't remember? Okay, sorry,
yeah. So he created Darkwing Duck and then Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. You can see this is Chip and Dale with Gadget. That's what I'm working on here.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, I see it. Okay, sorry, it took me a second.
It does. It will. Oh, be careful. Yeah, you got to be really. I'm gonna just make sure you got to be really careful about some of these. It
seems like she should have like mouse ears, maybe. I don't know.
I have them. I have them with mouse ears. I just so you have to be so careful. The stuff that's gonna show up on this. Yeah,
you might want to be careful.
Yeah. Anyway, I do have mouse ear Gadget. So I did like mouse makeup 1943 or something like that as a prompt, and it worked out. So it's Our Lady Immaculate with mouse ears that does function. But the thing I was trying to find was her with the fly. I don't know if I can. Hold on. Here, I have an idea. Fly, giant.
Isn't Disney about to lose the copyright of Mickey Mouse like right around the corner?
Oh,
no, in a way, it's
they already did.
The Steamboat Willie Mickey.
Right.
But who wants to use that? He doesn't even have gloves on. No, or did he? I don't know.
He's got 5 fingers, 6 fingers.
I mean, I'm gonna use. I think that's the thing. Is like so Steamboat Willie and Zipper the Fly. So the fly inside of the Rescue Ranger show, they have like a little fly that helps him out, but he's not like a normal fly. He's like a dragon.
And it's funny because I actually worked on the title sequence for the latest movie.
Really?
Yeah. So there was one I never saw a movie, so maybe it's part of the plot line, right? Because the fly, I forgot the name, but he had babies with Gadget.
Yeah.
Right. Did you see the movie? I don't know.
I did see the movie. I did see it.
That was really bizarre.
The dragonfly had babies with a chipmunk.
Yeah. But they're not really. But it's not a chipmunk because you have to remember these are like I think whoever made the show kind of recognized like the avatar quality that this is like really she's mouse-like, but it's using the mouse for this Pleiades spirit. I mean, if anything, and the fly because the fly is often shows up in like Kekian magic, right? So you've got the fly and the frog, and so like there's no temple to Kek. But you know where Kek is. It's because it's in the dawn where the flies are birthing and dying, right? And like that's it in ancient Egypt. Like you knew like new temples were coming. That a religion was falling, or like a temple was falling, and a new religion was going to become popular and take its place. That cult was starting to arise. A lot of the time, they associated it with the flies because they knew the fly meant a new
So, okay, that's interesting. So I was just talking about the thing with. I feel like I've talked to you about it before too. The Lord of the Flies, Lord of the Rings connection. Because I was just curious. I was like, it just seems that there's like a resonance there. But it turns out same university, whatever J.R.R. Tolkien. Where's he at? I feel stupid. Oxford,
probably.
I'm sorry. But anyway, same university, same time. Books published the same year. And the only connection that I could find between them that was direct was actually that they shared a colleague friend who was a theosophist in the Rudolf Steiner school. So they're a student of Rudolf Steiner, and that person, I saw them in relationship to, I'm sorry, I can't even think right now. Who was Lord of the Flies? Who wrote that? Who wrote Lord of the Flies? Oh my God, I feel dumb.
I didn't know this was gonna be a pop quiz.
I've read the book. I mean,
by William Golding.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just uploaded some of the drawings I did for the movie.
All right. Okay. So I go to if I go to X,
just for fun.
If I go to X, it'll be in X.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're the one sneaking nudity into these animations.
I wish I
got you, man. We got proof now.
It's the goat. He's putting the goat in. Oh, look at that. Come on, everybody. You know what? We could be making way more money if you just like autographed this stuff and sold it to like the audience.
Well,
if you caller number 11.
Is that Kamala Harris in the background? Who is that?
Oh my God.
Well, it's funny you'd say that. I was thinking of Nancy Pelosi, but yeah.
I see Wanda Sykes. We all see different things.
We all see different things.
So see those little flies, those are the mutant, those are the crossbreeds in the background.
There's so much to this, like the idea of like the Pleiades and like the end of our speech. Like what's the fly? Egyptian mythology fly. Let's see if we can find anything. Ba is the Egyptian soul of immortality and associated with the fly. Okay. So, I mean, our mortality is associated with the fly because a fly lives and dies so quickly.
Does this relate to Keck? Is there some?
Well, because again, let's find out if the let's see, Ba, Soul, Keck, maybe not.
Oh boy, yeah.
We'd have to type in like Keck or something like that.
Right.
Let's do like if we did like mythology of Keck, maybe something like that.
Who knows? Yeah.
I remember though, like at some point I was doing a bunch of Unicode Egyptian mythology, and I was translating and like trying to figure out how to use like hieroglyphs with like software. And the fly was a symbol. Like you'd see the fly a lot. Like you're like, why are the Egyptians drawing a fly so often? It seems like kind of a weird looking thing, the Egyptian fly symbol. But just like these archon of characters, which are not considered to be super nice. Like a lot of the things they like are like hippopotamuses eat people, lions are ferocious, snakes can kill you, rats, mice, demons. It seems like these are associated with plagues and demons and everything else like that. And so the fly I think of as the plague. I also think of as like when what's his name? The OSS stooge who was vice president to Trump. Not Sean Penn. Anybody?
Pence?
Mike Pence.
Oh, Pence. There we go.
Jesus Christ. It's one of those nights, isn't it? I can feel it. I think, we delayed.
I think it's Sophia, and she's like putting sand into the drinks. It's naked lunch season is what's going on also. But so Pence, the fly on his face, and a lot of these events where the fly is on the face seems to be kind of an alert to you that there's something wrong.
That was Obama.
These are dead people.
Obama had
the
that
dead
thing.
people.
Yeah.
Where's that?
The fly in his face, dude. Yeah. So that's been there's it's so bad. It's so bad. Right on his third eye. Like that was the one that really was pretty weird.
Like it should have ended up like in Indiana Jones. What's his name? The guy who plays the bad guy, Bolak. I forgot his name, but there was a fly crawling along his face, and he ate it. He had just swallowed it. It's such a good actor that he just swallowed the fly. Oh my god! I think Belloc. The guy with the French.
I don't remember meeting a fly. I gotta rewatch that.
Yeah, you didn't know that scene? It was so hilarious. Yeah, it's that time when Indiana Jones was like, he had the grenade launcher aiming at the Ark of the Covenant.
So was he playing Keck in that then? Was that like it's Keck and the Fly? I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, I think Keck is a weird thing because like it's weird. More and more people don't know about it. It was a window. There was a window for the weirdest people only, to understand about Keck. And it was like, by the way, I know this is really not your field, especially the people who knew the most about Keck. I feel like you have like white supremacists obsessed with Egyptian magic, you know what I mean? African gods, something very strange about that they picked this group of the most, arguably some of the most ignorant people and gave them like a reality check about African mythology. I think is pretty interesting.
Right. Well, there's also just in terms of You're talking about when oh, there you go.
If anyone's seen this, I snatched this up before it got banned off of Amazon.
Hold on, let me
Wow.
get the,
But
where's the
this one's
solo?
Dang.
Pepe
I'm
and
trying here. Pepe and Pede. The Adventures of Pepe
and
Pede.
Pede, because it was about the
Centipedes.
centipedes. I
Sorry.
forgot
I was a
what
little
all that
Latin.
was
I took
about.
that to a place I probably shouldn't have.
Wow.
But I
Talk
mean,
about-
it was an introduction to synchronicity for a lot of people, and it's
Right.
also a certain type of mysticism. And it reminds me of in Wilhelm Reich's The Mass Psychology of Fascism, when used the way he uses the term mysticism, which initially at my knee jerk, as I didn't care for. I had kind of a reaction to that, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, there always is this kind of mystical aspect to symbolism, like whatever. Like if you're talking about like nationalism, there's this kind of imbuing of symbols to kind of charge symbols
So
that's kind
good.
of like part of it. And it felt like the Pepe Keck thing was like, because it was weird. Like there was that record. What was that older record with the magic frog? What was that called? I want to say like Shyamalan or something. What was that?
Oh, yeah,
Chaudelet. Thank you. Sorry, it's been a while. But yeah, no, it's just like there was a lot of weird connections there, but it was all just type of synchro mysticism. And it was interesting to see people that who maybe hadn't been down in that realm before, just really taking to it.
Hey, can you look up? Andreas, can you look up Baal? Baal, Baal, the demon,
Yeah.
king of demons.
I did recently watch an episode of Ask Like You Know 26 with Raphael, and he had David Ewing Jr. on, and he was talking about the Paulations and the idea that Paul, was, and Saul to Baal, that he was actually Baal. And
Yeah, actually, the spelling is different too. You should look up Bael.
Okay,
Yeah, because
B-A-L.
that's in the
Baal.
lesser.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but some people say they are the same. The Beelzebub and but if you look at it, it's there's the frog, there's a fly.
Oh yeah, so
fly legs.
we're tying it back to Lord of the Flies, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I say that like Lord of the Flies, Lord of the Rings, but what is the significance there? The significance is that they're perfect opposites, but kind of about the same thing. So it's like Lord of the Flies is like the petri dish version of like Lord of the Rings is like this whole kingdom and it's so complicated and it's all this stuff. And the Lord of the Flies is just like an island with like a few kids, and yet they kind of like communicate the same thing in certain ways,
Yeah, I've been thinking about it more and more because it becomes a more interesting question about humanity. Are we in the image of God? If we're in the image of God, is God evil? Because a lot of this idea of like original sin, the word original sin, even it's like a near miss on a plane. It's like not the right term, because if it's original, then that would imply it's like we're created in the image of Yaldabaoth, right?
Right.
Yaldabaoth is a violent, jealous, angry god. Like the Jews are talking about a jealous god who doesn't let them build temples, cuts off the ends of their dicks. Like it's a pretty seriously upset god compared to this.
Right. Well, this is the thing, is that they're like one ring to rule them all, right? But the evil is in us. So with the way that even the best person, when they're confronted with the ring, eventually kind of like starts to go to that darker place the more that they're around it, but it's actually coming from them. So the thing in Lord of the Flies where they're like, maybe there is a beast, maybe it's only us, is it's like they're both really hyper focused on that same idea, but one going so complex and one being so simple. That's fascinating. Yeah. Sorry.
Absolute power
they
crept
serve
absolutely.
similar purposes too, because can you call them gnomes? No, hobbits. The hobbits in the Lord of the Rings, like they're supposed to be the ones that can retrieve the ring because they have tiny little egos to match their tiny little bodies. But also the rule is that whatever treasure they find, they have to be willing to give it up immediately and not hold on to it. So I think that's, and if you go into the Lord of the Flies, it's kind of that same thing. It's like ego is the downfall. So if everyone were able to go along with no ego, and if you found treasure, being able to share it with the rest of the group and not hoard it. So I think they share that same kind of dynamic, at least.
Totally.
Yeah, I think the idea of us being in the image of something that's like violent, and that if you look at humanity when it's left to its own devices, it doesn't necessarily produce this John Locke society.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt, but before you change this image, I'm looking at Kermit the Frog on.
Ooh.
Is he playing Piggy in Lord of the Flies? I'm sorry, I'm just looking at his shirt that has the frog on it, and we just were making that frog fly connection. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you got a point.
No
here.
accident.
That's I don't know. So it seems like there's connection there, and like the idea of the Lord of the Flies being about, if left to their own devices, if they're given so much power, right? There's nothing to take their power away.
Right.
Then
There's
they
a
become
problem
all
with Lord of
powerful
the Flies, though,
evil.
and that's that there's a variable or the influence that they're coming from an institution, even though they're
That's
so
right.
young.
They're made in the image of God. That's what I'm saying is that's actually the interesting part. I used to think, oh yeah, of course this is silly because if you had kids, and granted I was raised reading wrong, so I think we had kids in California whose parents said, well, if you take away guns and GI Joes from them, then they won't play with violence, and we give them a statue of a priest or a statue of a gardener. And you know what kids do is they bend the gardener over and they aim it at people. They're like, give me your priest statue. There's no way to stop kids from being
if nothing else, they'll just use their fingers, that's the thing.
So until you take those away.
You can take your fingers away.
But we're probably made in the image of something that's a little bit more complicated and nuanced, and it's more interesting, that idea, I think, than that we got that from something else, because you've got this idea that everything comes from God except for bad things, you know what I mean? Like, and that's clearly interesting, because in the biblical accounts it basically says we were immortal because God didn't create death. Death is a creation of evil, right? So we're in this sort of Naked Lunch. That's how I see it. Do you guys read Naked Lunch or watch the movie?
Of course. Yeah.
I'm amazed.
The movie's much different than the book. I don't know. I didn't know how they could translate the book to a movie, and Cronenberg got as close as I think you could get.
And yeah, he did, in a sense.
Burroughs references MK Ultra in that book a few times too.
Oh, I imagine so.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I read it. I can't remember that.
Like, apparently, I killed my wife. I don't know how that happened.
You put a lot of Saturn in all the images there.
Yeah,
every image got a Saturn, so you want to emphasize on death and
so that's I got another
time eternal.
I got another vibe with Saturn. So here's L. Ron Hubbard with Pogs at the volcano, because if you watch that cartoon Legend of the Hawaiian Slammers, that's the cosmos, right? The Legend of the Hawaiian Slammers is the Scientology cartoon that was made for kids to know, like, the Zimu story. I know we these days call him Xenu, but if you actually listen to L. Ron Hubbard, he calls him Zimu originally. And so there's this idea of the planet that swallowed everything and everything's pushed out of it. But at the same time, you also have this idea that there's a divine feminine, and it's been kind of suppressed. And so you have this idea that the divine feminine, that's where all the planets are all the gods are stored in the divine feminine. So isn't it? And then she has to be cut open, and we're told she's super evil. Is it possible that we kind of Mary Magdalene this story a bit? Is it possible? It seems like maybe Saturn's the feminine here, because it's gestating these gods, and
Saturn's
eventually she has a cesarean.
It's the dark side, it's not it's the yin,
Okay,
but whereas the sun is the yang,
Yeah, so let's follow.
So it's this black sun is feminine.
Well, yeah, and so let's follow that, right? So like the idea, who do the Luciferians, Lucis light, who do the Luciferians worship? What is the Illuminati all about? Like, what are the most evil organizations obsessed with? Light.
Well, the Bavarian Illuminati was atheist.
Okay, fair. And also, to say they're evil is wrong. I shouldn't say it like that. But I just mean that the obsession with light.
You're talking about Uncle Weishaupt right now. Come on.
Good. You ought to.
It's just hilarious, because now you're putting all these pogs, and I don't even think some people are old enough to know what pogs are. I mean, can I tell like a funny little story? Just
please do. Pogs are going to be a major part of our religion. Like the X Church is going to.
I'm planning on making some pogs. Actually,
they're going to be magical, like the way Catholics have saints. We're going to have pogs. Keep going.
Yeah. So back in 1995, I was working on a Johnny Quest, The Real Adventures, and so this was Hanna-Barbera. It's my very first union job, and there was the San Diego Comic-Con. So we had a booth set up for the Comic-Con. So my job as an employee was to hand out the pogs, wear my Johnny Quest t-shirt. It was my very first job doing storyboards for the show, but my job there is
the coolest job. I wish I met you then.
I wish I saved. I wish I saved a stack of them because there was like a mountain pile of them.
Oh, I would have
inside
taken them all from you. I've been
So-
like, let's play right now. I got a slammer, but my slammer is pretty slamming. I gotta admit, it's gonna slam your pogs.
Like breaking fingers with it.
I mean, it's bad, bro. It's metal. Yeah.
Remember the ones that were like shaped like little like rip saws or something?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of slammers. I got about as many slammers. I got pogs. Okay, keep going.
So what happened was that do you guys know the Ren and Stimpy show, right?
I do. Yeah.
Ren and Stimpy,
when I was a child,
You're
I used to
asking
go-
us if we know Ren and Stimpy. Continue, sir.
As a child, though, I used to go by it when I was very, very little. I was like, this is probably not good for me. I probably shouldn't watch the show until I'm older. And then I got older, and I was like,
it's
no,
definitely
this
not
show is
PG-13.
this show is just messed up. When I got older, I realized. But you go.
So John Kirk for Lucy, John Kirk for Lucy, he's the creator of the show, right? So he had a booth right next to ours. The Spumco is his company. So Spumco had his booth right next to ours.
It's
so I was worshiping that guy. I was watching all throughout my college years.
Yeah.
He only did like 2 episodes, though, unless we're talking about another guy.
Well,
Camp,
Bob Camp is the other guy.
Bob Camp, and he came
got
up
in
with the
trouble.
characters. But long story.
Yeah.
There's a documentary on it. But anyway, continue. Sir.
Yeah. So this is a long story, but what happened? So John Christopher Lucy was there, and then that's why he branched away to do his own show. But John Kirk for Lucy, he got in a huge scandal because lots of women started coming out, like accusing him of sexual harassment.
Grooming. They were saying that like 15-year-old girls were being groomed.
14-year-old girls
into a tracer or an artist, and it's like, well, that's pretty weird.
So I was handing out pogs, and I saw him standing right there. I rushed to him, like, "Oh, John, you're my hero. I love all your episodes." And then he didn't even care about what I had to say. He just looked past my shoulder, shaking my hand, just looking over my shoulder, looking at all the girls because I was the only guy in my booth. Everybody else.
Do you have a sister? By any chance?
No. It was the PAs, the APs, the producer. They're all young women, beautiful girls. So my booth was full of young, beautiful women. And then he's looking at all of them, and then he just like didn't even say hi to me, nothing to me. He just walked right past me and just start flirting with all my girls.
Nice.
And then he took them to the hotel room in San Diego, right next to the convention center. And then I was like, that's why I realized something happened that night because I didn't hear anything from those girls.
This is more of a Ren and Stimpy story or a Pog story or neither. It's just this was
all of it. This is just
holding
Lucy,
pogs. He's holding the pogs in his hand as the girls are getting his slammer.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Hey.
I didn't get a slammer. He got a slammer.
Hey, remember Alf? He's back in Pog form. That's the episode where Bart gives up his soul, where he sells his soul. And then what's his name? What's his friend's name? Who said that?
Milhouse.
Milhouse sold the soul for the Alf Pogs.
That's
but,
so.
I got some cool pogs. Elf pogs.
Oh man,
Remember Elf?
where is it?
In pog form.
I'm trying to show you. I'm sorry.
You got it. I heard it. Yeah.
There he is, right there.
But
It's pretty weird because so this is it's literally everything we're saying. So you've got these sigils of magic which manifest intention. Pogs are very similar. I remember when I was in I went to Esalen at one point and I met like some like Qigong master, and he was talking about cancer and all these like traumas that lead people to cancers. He's like, you're going through something right now. You need to be very careful not to get cancer. I was like, whoa. And I was like 19. So he handed me these pogs. I mean, they weren't pogs, but they were essentially kind of similar shaped to Paranoid Americans logo here. And they had hexagrams, like I Ching hexagrams on them. I still have them. I kept them in my pocket for years at that point when I felt like I really needed them. So I think that there is something to this idea. I mean, the ancient Chinese and modern, magic, Eastern magic is using symbols on essentially pogs.
Sure. Yeah, I have hundreds of pogs, man. I got cigar boxes filled with pogs, and I started with just like a small amount of pogs. And my friend in elementary school came from Hawaii. He grew up on Hawaii, and so he got really into pogs, but before it became a thing here in California. And so we'd play pogs together. He taught me how to play pogs. So it's like once it became popular at school, like it showed up, and I was like, I was in it, and so I just won everybody's pogs, and they get so upset. I was walking away with all these pogs.
How could you do this to me?
And the school that I went to, they eventually considered it gambling. It was a Christian school, Mom was a Jew for Jesus.
And just I think this is correct, but POG actually stands for papaya, orange, guava, because that was the flavor of the juice that used to come on.
Really?
Yep.
Well, again, this
And
is the
milk
original.
caps too.
Here's the original like mythos lore for pogs, right? Like it starts out in Hawaii over the volcano, and then Xenu threw these gods into the volcano, and it takes a kid with a slammer who's reached OT8 in order to get them out. Here comes the gods of ancient times. Some of them look more like demons, but that's all right. The superheroes.
This is so interesting because they make this out of it, but this did not start as a product from any company. It just was what kids figured out to do. They were doing it themselves. They would use like coins or whatever, and they used the milk caps and the pog caps that were just happened to be on there to make a game out of it. So it started very organically, but then all of a sudden it got like co-opted and used in this. They're like, oh, let's do this whole thing with it. But the beauty of
thought it was like, let's make money off that.
Let's make money off this. And
but not just that. Let's make like a new version of the Genesis cosmogony. Like let's explain. Let's use this thing that kids are obsessed with to teach them about what we believe is true about the universe. That's what Scientologists did. That's really impressive. They co-opted it. I agree, but
so this is legitimately a Scientology production.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, like the whole story is here about like the volcanoes and the spirits of the. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy.
How bizarre. It's like the elements there, huh?
Legend of the Hawaiian Slammers. It's so good.
Hawaii is starting to become the central theme because we just had like a 4 earthquakes sinking together when Israel was attacked, right? And then we just had the Maui situation. I don't know, and the other rich people are all like hoarding land over there. They're all like, the land grabs. So I don't know. I think something's happening.
Hey, can I share something really crazy with you guys? So I talked to my rabbi for like a couple hours last night, and there's a lot of things. Like I'm not going to go into everything.
By the way, I really want to say it's amazing how everyone's like, "Oh man, I can't believe this is horrible," and like Israel, and then they'll call you if you're like Jewish and be like, "By the way, I hope you're doing all right." It's funny.
So you know they have Torah readings every day. You know this is a thing. So like in Israel and then secular Jews elsewhere, they're all reading the same passages together. And so if you look at what they're reading on Saturday, which I believe includes Friday, they group them together if you're in Israel. And so it's a set of verses. And so included within these, if you look at Deuteronomy 33, chapter 33, verses 27 through 29. And if you look at Joshua 1, I think it's 4 through 5, but these speak to here, let me see here if I can just find it here. Deuteronomy 33, 27. So so here we have, this is what they were reading. This is what all religious Jews were reading at the time. On Shabbat they have, and so this is important too. You got to understand, like this is a holy day. It's the anniversary of it's the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. So but they're reading, the eternal God is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms, and he shall thrust out the enemy from before thee, and shall say, destroy them. Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon the land of corn and wine. Also, his heavens shall drop down dew. Dew is significant from the book of Isaiah. You have the dew. Tal is what awakens the dead. It's the resurrection of the dead. So, okay, happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by the Lord, the shield of thy help. So David's shield. And who is the sword of thy excellency? And thine enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Okay, so that's one. And then, go ahead.
And you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know how to address to what you just said, but something. Hezbollah posted a video, but at the end of the video, I mean, it's all propaganda, military, and whatever. But at the end of the video, it has in all 3 languages. It has in Hebrew, in Arab, and in English, quoting Genesis verse 17. I
because that's what they're all. Like, they're all. That's the whole lore.
So this is the end. This is the end of the reading for the year, and it begins again. So this is basically like a get to the bottom, go back to the top of the slide time on that day, on Saturday. And so this is what they're reading. This is the other part. So
In
here we have
Joshua?
your territory. Yeah, from Joshua. It was one. So it's just Joshua 1 basically is what they're reading yesterday. 1 through 15, I think. But you have your territory shall extend from the wilderness and the Lebanon to the great river, the river Euphrates on the east, the whole Hittite country, and up to the Mediterranean Sea on the west. No one shall be able to resist you as long as you live. As I was with Moses, I will be with you. So like, I will not fail or forsake you. But this is the thing, is that it's speaking to the territory that is being given to the Jews. But
Right.
this is biblical. And so the fact that they were all reading this, it's like this, the way in which religious people relate to this material, it's like that is really pronounced. And so
Right.
like,
the flag itself, right? Like even the Israeli flag, those are two rivers, right?
Mhm.
So was that the Euphrates and
It's the Jordan is what
Jordan?
Euphrates is. Yeah. But
So it's like they're saying the point is they're like, look, this is our state, right? It's
Yes.
like the Seal of Solomon, and it's as far as these two rivers. It goes to as far west as the Mississippi, as far as the Euphrates. That's kind of
right. And so the
they're saying here.
context that it seems like a lot of people are missing is that there's been a rapid increase of protests against Netanyahu's government. It's so corrupt, and more Israelis have been having really strong reactions to it, to the point that they're leaving the military, which is considered mandatory.
A lot of IDF girls were coming out saying Netanyahu knew, he got the intelligence that this was about to happen. He did nothing.
The Egyptians were warning it. That was I want to point that out as a thing. Egyptian warning, Israel ignored. September 11th vibes all around. Israel ignored Egyptian
Just to be
warning.
safe, is any of this hate speech yet? Where's the line at?
That's a good question. And I think, and again, David, as a Jew, what do you think about all this, right?
I think that there's a vast distinction between Zionism and Judaism, and that can't be overstated. And like and some people will use that as a means. Like some people will say that, and then what do you know? Now we're talking about the Jewish people as a whole, and it's
you're talking about their state.
But I'm saying like that is the issue.
You're a Jew, and then there's a state, and a state country is different than a nation.
It's not to criticize Israeli politics is not the same as criticizing Judaism or the Jewish people as a whole. Just like if we're going to have problems with Hamas, that doesn't mean that we're speaking directly to the 2 million people living in Gaza, which is essentially,
or the millions of Palestinians who've been dispersed around the world in Chile and Syria, and Australia,
right? But this is an open air prison, and they're basically in retaliation for what Hamas did. I'm Captain Obvious over here, but they're looking to deny them food, electricity, water, basic human rights. And this is not a new issue, but it's being exacerbated to the max. And what do you know? All these protests against Netanyahu's government,
which were going on for months
in the name of solidarity, for months. Everyone has to kind of come together for this common evil,
or else you hate your mother. That's kind of what you're telling people.
Basically, yeah. So yeah, no, it's a very nuanced, sensitive thing, and
if you believe if you love Semitic peoples, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, including Semitic is specific to language. Like when we say Semitic, and people use, it's weird because when we say anti-Semitic, like that is Semitic means language, like, and the Semitic speaking people includes the Arabs, it includes the Palestinians, like they're part of that. So it's so divisive when we're talking about this stuff. So this is supposed to be the most protected place on planet Earth. So when we talk about the Iron Dome and all this, and so I've had friends who were involved in raves in the territories. You may have known one guy, Andreas Yohai, but maybe I don't need to say that, but incredible parties, right? But this is international, like people coming from all over the world to come to a rave at the very edge of the southern border on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War.
On Sukkot, and Sukkot's like a cool holiday because it's all about traveling, and how you're supposed to take care of visitors.
Totally.
It's about Good Samaritan stuff. So if you're not taking care of Good Samaritans on Sukkot, you're not doing your job. Yeah.
You made a point there, and I'm just curious about, and this is like an honest question, even though it sounds a little bit flippant, but if Semitic means language, is there really like organized groups anywhere on the planet that are anti-language? Like they
Yeah,
have,
absolutely.
like,
So there are, for instance, there are anti-Semitic rabbis. There were Jews in New York that became against orthodoxy, and they wanted to move on to English, and they were only about translating Talmud, and they were anti-Hebrew because it was a dead language.
Well, keep in mind
in the
that
1890s, they were like, it's a dead language. We should just
Well,
move on.
is there
There were
anything
some.
such as like anti-language in general?
In
Like,
general, no, I don't
like,
know.
no, this is the devil's work. You know,
Right.
it's a way to,
Yeah.
force us to.
In a way, I think Baba Hari Das almost, because he was silent for I think 70 years of his life or something.
Yeah,
But,
vows of silence are real, and then of course the newspeak. If you think about George Orwell, we're headed right there.
Right.
Yeah.
But
What about Esperanto?
yeah.
Do you guys feel that's good or evil?
I think it's evil. I think it can. I think some evil can do some good, but Esperanto is definitely evil. Just listen to him speak. Sorry,
There's like 3 people that are really pissed off right now after hearing that.
I mean, it's all right. It's a powerful evil. I think though the thing with the Semitic argument is interesting. The fact that we're not saying anti-Jewish or anti-Arabic, we're saying anti-Semitic, refers to this idea that if a bunch of people were upset that these people were speaking, or that these people existed that were speaking this language, even like just on a proliferation of that culture level. I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of people are very pro-Semitic culture existing.
Well, they never spoke. I mean, not never, but we don't really know what Hebrew of old actually sounded like. It's a very recent phenomenon. People
got a lot of
have
Arabic
conversations in Hebrew. That was, biblical language. It was something that we would read text that way, and both sides would read text that way. But
another
read
thing
Hebrew together. But. Yeah.
Another thing I was gonna say about the the terrorist issue in Hamas and Hezbollah is that it's not okay. Most people that I know who are Palestinian don't live in Palestine, right? Like you got out as soon as you could, or later if you had to. But a lot of people left Palestine like 1919 to 1956. Some people left right at the beginning. Those were the ones who run things in other countries. Like there are Palestinian enclaves that are just doing well. Governments, people that have made their way into becoming administration of the bureaucracy of their new states. So very similar to what the Jewish people did when they went to new countries. There's Palestinians all over the place. But when you go to Palestine, what you'll find less and less. There's a few families that are still hung out that are trying to hold on for whatever reason, because it's more about the state, and a bunch of people at the border, because the border to Gaza is to Egypt. So really this is about Egypt.
There's 2 exits, one's to Israel, one's to Egypt. And Egypt opened up the border very briefly, apparently, and then closed it and said, oh, there was, I don't know what they were saying, that there was a strike on the other side or whatever. That
there
was a truckload of aid, aid trucks with food and medicine and medical supplies.
While trying to be as careful as possible, I'll remind people that it's very common. It's actually, let's say it this way, that it's essentially obligation for the Israeli citizen to be a member of the Israeli army. Mm-hmm. So the idea that you're like, oh, there's just 2 citizens, that like they're not just 2 citizens. Likely, the highest probability is that they're more than just 2 citizens, that they're likely involved with the army. And so
it's obligatory.
It makes it a lot harder to understand what they were doing. If they're just did they believe while they were over there that they were tourists still, and that starts going down, or do you immediately feel like you're now called back to service? It's it got really complicated really quickly. And then the idea that Egypt and all of these other countries are trying to protect not really Hamas, but a border, because they don't want Israel to expand their border. So there's people that have been putting effort into that are not Palestine. And so a lot of people are like, oh, Palestinians. Like, no, dude, there's a lot of Somalis from Minnesota there right now. Actually, I wanted to point that out. If you look into the Minnesota leaders are condemning deadly attacks. But if you go back a little bit further, where was the thing? I just had it. Minneapolis Somali communities for the last few years have become like, they put YouTube videos out. They grab these kids that are growing up in Minnesota. They give them a plane ticket and they send them over to the East and say, hey, we're going to give you a gun and we're going to train you. And so there's a lot of American kids over there. And I've been watching some of those videos, and you see and you hear them talking like, yeah, they're speaking in Arabic, but not with Palestinian accent. I don't know if you know any Palestinians, they have an accent. And then if you listen to it more, you're like, that's not even really like a normal Somali accent.
Dude,
And then
isn't it-
I heard them speaking English in one of the videos. I heard them like yelling Allah Akbar, and then they started speaking some English. Then someone was like, "Hey, bro," or something. I
Hey,
heard
bro,
something.
yeah.
And I was like, "This is nuts,"
Yeah.
because here's all the evidence you need. That, I mean, granted, we're not saying that some group of bureaucrats who run one country are like shuffling disenfranchised youth intentionally to another. But it is interesting that that is what is naturally occurring. Then, if we can't call it God, let's call it nature. That American terrorists are these jihad tourists, and we're looking at it and we're saying, "Oh, it's so horrible what's going on in Israel." And granted, some of them are not, but a lot of them are our own, like literally grown up here, going over there and doing these horrible things. And so what are we supposed to say when we're like, oh, this is so alien, foreign, different? It's become so like the money for that, if you're not American, a lot of that money came from Germany, right? Germany's freaking out right now because they go, we're giving $8 billion a year to Hamas and Hezbollah. They've been doing it for the last, 8 years? So
yeah, well, you
so
know, the people talk about
building up the violence and not the water and power,
right? And we left all that weaponry with Afghanistan, and then now you have Ukrainian weapons. Who knows where everything's ending up? I mean, there's been instances of, you see, what was it like? There was like a bioweapon thing. There was like a some kind of gas bomb that went off a number of years ago. That was like,
in Lebanon?
and then it turned out that it was like totally an American signature on the shell and shit. And it's like, and you're like, so, and I think it's difficult because when people say false flag now, maybe it's due to Alex Jones or something, but the way that term gets used is people often treat it that we're describing a hoax, like nothing is happening. Yet I think things happen, and at the same time, there's also things get twisted, things get exaggerated, things get added to all kinds of stuff all at the same time. So it's really difficult. I think you have to kind of just like, the way information spreads now, it's like you almost have to just wait and not react too much. Like all the people rage tweeting about 40 babies, just hold on, hold the phone a second. You remember that Kuwaiti girl, this is the 33rd anniversary to the day of when she spoke on what Saddam Hussein had done with the babies and with the incubators and stuff. And then it turned out that she was the daughter of the ambassador. That was like, it wasn't even, she was supposed to just be some it was just complete. It turned out to be completely bogus, completely made up. I'm not saying that's what's happening.
But it felt
here,
real.
but it felt so, and
really
people,
real.
it felt so real, and people had such a visceral reaction to it. I think it's important to remember that when things are this heightened, when tensions are this high, and people are so reactive, like I got into an argument with my mother before this call earlier today, because it's like she's getting information from the television news and what they're saying, and I'm like, whoa, like, this is very nuanced. Like we got to go through this like step by step and be considerate of like, and it says, and then I find myself getting reactive because she'll just say things that I'm just like, wait a minute, no, that's not true. And then she's like, yes, it is. And then I'm just like, and then we call each other back and be like, make our peace with it or whatever.
Oh, we love each other. Yeah, I know that vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I want to see, because someone's always in the audience going like, well, was it just crisis actors? And like, why didn't Israel use its amazing, because they have these weapons that are supposed to be able to see. And for the last 20 years, they have almost had no attacks because they can see a rocket coming in. They're able to shoot it out of the sky. So a bunch of people are like, well, then why is this happening? And I think the answer you have to remember is like crisis acting is, yeah, sure, like it exists. But in circumstances like this, where you can get a bunch of kids to go to a festival, it's a lot easier than you think it is to have I mean, there's tons of people show up at a location. Majority of those people, are probably going to be safe. There's going to be a few people that are casualty. They can calculate it. And it's like cold-blooded. I think people get killed because of this. On one side or the other, that's what happened. Either Hamas did it or somebody else, right?
If they want to paint a picture that is just what they're looking for, we've seen this before, where things will happen, a tragedy occurs, and then how quickly you get people to kind of give their spin on it because they use it as never waste a crisis, right? And
it is interesting, all the people that like in the woodwork, you're like, oh, so that's what you support. Interesting. Yeah,
right. And so, but this really does, I'm just gonna say it, and this is speculative, I don't know, but it has an indication that people were getting killed in the streets in Gaza in increasing frequency. You just look at the UN statistics every year on what happens with Palestinians, and they've been it's very much provoking. It doesn't excuse a fucking thing.
No,
but there is a provocation,
Could
And
this be
so
the new bull run? Like people go to a rave on the Gaza Strip is like the new bull run.
it's been
I
happening for a
mean,
long time.
I'd
People have
do
been
it.
throwing parties in the territories, like big parties. It's some of
That's
the,
the
like I was
worst
saying,
thing
some of
about
the
me.
best
Whenever I hear
raves
this
in the
stuff,
world.
I'm like, I wanted to be right there because I feel like I could have done something. Like every time, I'm like, it's the worst. It's the worst vibe, you know, that you can feel. Is like, if only I was able to do something. And I get that for those ones. I mean, because there's a lot of kids there that they didn't know what was going on. They were raised to believe violence is wrong. And that's becoming more of a thing, is like people that are not part of the military. And I've known a lot of soldiers from Israel that have been through they have a lot of post-traumatic stress. You know, I think if you see like Israeli women if you see Palestinian women and children like kicked to death in the face by a soldier, like, or you're a part of that, sometimes, I'm not saying everybody, but like I know people that's happened to, that
Yeah, me too.
that will change your life forever. That will change.
But what if they're
you're
not
a nice-
listening to you?
If you're a nice kid and you join the army because you're told a bunch of people want to kill you because they think that because you're God's children, God loves you, they're not, and they hate you. Like that can be enough if you tell someone you're God's chosen master people and other people are inferior, and like that can start. Not everybody feels that way, but in a military environment, right, for a state where you're trying to defend yourself, this can happen, and then all of a sudden you do something you wish you hadn't. And I think that's happened to a lot of kids.
In boot camp, I remember like the first or second week, it kind of rocked my world. They're like, I don't care what you've been told or what slogans you've heard, but your job from now on is to kill people and break their stuff. Not was basically the mantra going forward. I mean, until you get out of training and get back into the real world semi.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's no qualms about it. Like the military at its heart is to kill people and break things. That's it.
Right. Well, that's also like that's the thing is that the Marine Corps, the way that it works is they have to they actually use a type of sublimation where they get young people to put their sexuality into killing, so that getting a kill is the equivalent of getting laid. That is a whole thing, because if you go back to like World War I and even World War II, is a lot of times people would shoot over the head, shoot to the side. They don't actually want to kill people, because most people don't want to do that. And so they had to figure out, how do we get them to get to that point? And when people talk about like racism being amok, like the military has more racism inherent in it than just about anywhere. And than any
like
other
a prison. It's like a prison.
Yeah, you think, people talk about the South like that's like the source of race. It's like, no, the fucking military, man. Like for real, like, because
no, don't get me wrong. There's
also
a lot of good camaraderie, but I'm just saying in structure, you'll see that this is true, that they've always had the Buffalo Brigade and things like the military has been that way,
Right. And so not everybody's into genetics, but when you're like keeping an ethnostate together as
the priority,
as a priority, then yeah, you have these these effects of it. And there's a lot of irony there, because like my feeling is, I'm just like, Jewish people were accused of a lot of things, leading up and into World War II, and I don't think most of those things were true. As far as like where they were coming from, because there's this Nazi notion of pure blood, and I don't think that was a Jewish idea. I think that was like a projection, and that's what people, that was an Aryan ideal. And now you have this place where it's like people are literally like kind of implying or saying directly, like, especially like you hear some of the things that Netanyahu has said, you're like, how are you not saying the exact thing that we got accused of? And why is that good? And why is that Jewish? Like, I don't understand, Mike.
It seems like we're down a little bit of a tangent, so I just wanted to tack this on, because I've been developing what I hope is a pretty unbiased theory here, or it might even be theory, it might just be my observation and research. But it seems that like most of these stories and like the horrible anti-Semitic rumors that still persist today, it kind of began because the Jews were allowed to accumulate money, but they weren't allowed to spend it on anything, and they couldn't like buy houses. And so basically you had a whole lot of people that could still develop skills, and they still had like tight family units, and they were amassing all sorts of money, and they weren't allowed to spend it in public. And then the second that they were able to go out and actually start spending money, it was like they had money stored up for all this time. And on top of that, they would, I guess, prevent communication from being intercepted. So I guess like from always having to kind of have underground networks in order to operate at all, they also developed like an intelligence network just de facto, and that would give them like advance notice on things. And since they were also the only ones legally allowed to do like money exchanging, like having this foresight in addition to handling money, it was almost like the first stock market insider trading. But
Right. That's
but
the
it wasn't like they connived, like all Jews connived and were like, we're going to do this. It was more like they weren't allowed to go and spend money anywhere. And then all of a sudden it was like, we've got all these resources that we've been saving up for generations. What do we
Right.
do with it now? Let's go.
And
and buy
specifically,
some
those
stuff.
are, and it's also that's specifically like a family, like that's like 4 families from a single family, like the Roth.
I'm talking about the Red
Right.
Shield specifically.
That's the Roth.
here.
That's
Not-
like that is the lore. Again, lore is the word tonight. Of
Yes,
the,
I should have been more specific, but I guess
well, the Rothschild family story is beautiful, and there's a musical about it. I always want people to watch because you can't really, but you can listen to it. This is
no, I was
done
hoping
by
this was also going to be POG related.
Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick, who made The Fiddler on the Roof. You know, they also made a musical about the
Sherman
Rothschilds.
Yellen.
Yeah,
Is Sherman Yellen related to the Federal Reserve chairwoman?
I would assume
Yeah.
so. That would make the most. That would be the most logical reason for him to make this musical. But this is a beautiful musical, and it's about what Thomas just told you. It's about the time that the Rothschilds started out as a guy who had some magic coins. He tossed a coin. He tossed a coin. He said, "Coin, it's up to you. I'll tell you what to do." And he tossed a coin. It's pretty real. But then it gets into he wants sons. I need sons to lead his empire. And he gets 5 sons and he sends them off around the world, to the different states. And
It's like Fiddler on the Roof. There's too many daughters. I need a son.
It's literally, Copenhagen's favorite banking firm, Rothschilds and Sons.
Can I tell you guys a really weird theory that maybe I shouldn't share, but I want to share it because fuck it. I had this idea, and I'm not attached to this. This is just out there that this idea is that at some point Hitler had a vision of the future, and he saw what would be happening in Israel, Palestine, and everything else. And he's like, "Oh my God, this is horrible. I have to stop this from happening." But the thing that he saw was the results of what he ended up doing to try and stop it. So it's a total paradox. It's like one of those.
I like to think that he's actually a time traveler, and that was like his best failed attempt.
Right. But he saw the thing that he was going to do and tried to stop it from happening, and actually just ended up creating it. So, but the thing is that had he not, we would have 6 million more Jews in the world, and everybody knows the Jews are the funniest freaking people. Just with the amount of Jews, if you look at the entertainment industry, we would be laughing all the time.
Through a lot of crisis.
We would be like, and it would just be the most healing, best thing that could happen for the world. But that was the messed up irony of him trying. Like he's like, I gotta stop this, and it ended up creating the Zionist state out of his. Anyway,
because you got a bunch of really it's interesting. You made a bunch of serious people out of this. That's what you get when you do that. I mean, I know that.
Recently, I posted you heard of the Edwin Black, right? He wrote the Transfer Agreement, that book. But Edwin Black, he's Jewish himself, but he almost got disowned by his parents because of the book. I just don't know. I want to know how the Jews actually feel about, because this was written back in the 70s. So
what is this? The Transfer Agreement, Edwin Black. I don't know who this is.
Yeah, there's that Hebrew word for it. It's start with the H, but it means transfer. So basically, what his investigation, he's an investigator.
I know that book.
Yeah,
totally. I looked at that, man. That's fucking crazy.
So in the transfer agreement, the basics of it is that he investigated and found out there was an agreement between the rabbis and the Nazi party that has yet got a hold of the power. But they said, hey, let's before it gets violent, let's transfer some of these people out of Germany.
Right. Yeah. This is actually public knowledge that they were the Germans first were like, can we get them out? Can we send them to Palestine? Maybe they were trying to create that. I think Hitler was involved with the Havara Agreement, right?
Yeah. So but of course the book would never mention what I suspect is that Rothschild is behind all of this since the Balfour Declaration.
But he is involved with the Havara Agreement. Yeah.
Havara Agreement is the transfer agreement. It's the same thing.
Rothschilds are like I thought there's no question the Rothschilds are involved with the Havara Agreement. They're like major part and parcel to the making of the Israeli state.
So of course the biggest conspiracy, which nobody. Yeah, so nobody has any proof really, but it's pretty obvious.
I think they signed it, like Thomas, you just said, right? The agreement was signed by.
He was the first Jew, I believe, to hold any sort of like public office in that regard too.
Right, and
Does that
they
mean
and they
anything?
continually built the Rothschild Center in Israel in 1969. They started building the
Well,
Rothschild
even
Center. Yeah.
Jacob Rothschild, he said that Israel is the creation of his family. So,
Yeah,
so no, he was interviewed. He says so. You know,
Right.
it's all on YouTube. So the thing is that, and the proof is in the coin. They minted the coin when the agreement was signed. They have a coin. One side has a Star of David, the other side with a swastika. You look it up. Those coins are available out there. So
This is wild too, man. But in the up until the 90s, I think the Rothschilds were literally setting the price of gold every day at like a certain time in England.
there we go.
And they only stopped that like recently, within the last generation.
What was happening up until recently?
I'll find the exact name of it. I think it was called gold fixing, which sounds
Oh.
like it's illegal, but that was what they actually did to
Mhm.
make sure that the markets didn't, you know, it was almost like the electoral college of the price of gold in a way.
Well,
you
I
guys-
wanted
It's like the gold standard in the U.S.
I want to say
you know,
before I
that's-
forget, because we were talking about the 12 tribes and some, a lot of this stuff with my like religious stuff is coming with 12 tribes.
Mhm.
And if you go into the Tartaria thing, we did a video recently on Tartaria with Nerdrotic. They're asking about like who are the Tartars, and if you look in the books, like the Jesuits and Marco Polo and Peter Fleming, everyone says that the Tartars are the lost tribes, that they're these tribes that escaped. And so at the same time that Moses is leaving, or sometime very quickly after that, you've got tribes that dissipate from that and they're continuing their rituals and everything else. And I find this really interesting because of the idea of the temple and Israel building a temple, and the idea of the third temple, because you've had the first temple destroyed, the second temple destroyed, and now they have the temple in their hearts waiting for the third temple. And but there's rules, right? Like, why aren't they just going and build? Is it they don't have the money? No, it's like God says you're not allowed to do certain things without following certain rules, and that's a major thing here. So the Israelites were forbidden from building temples for a period in history because their God Yahweh was a jealous God who did not want them to worship any other gods or idols. In the book of Exodus, Yahweh commands Moses to build a tabernacle, which was a portable tent-like structure that served as a temporary place of worship for the Israelites. Yahweh commanded Moses and the Israelites not to build any more temples and shrines, and they're only supposed to worship him in the tabernacle. And so when you start looking at these pictures, you're like, why is it that Genghis Khan and all these people have these tents, these huge tents?
You're speaking of Sukkot.
Right. It's full on Sukkot. It's the period of Sukkot that happens. And their whole goal is to eventually get to a point where they're able to build the temple again. And that seems to be something that comes up a lot.
Right. So that's the kicker though, is that what is the distinction between the tabernacle, which could be moved, which is made of acacia, right? So that so is the ark, and which contains the ark, and you bring that
Lamps
from
and
place to place, and it's mobile. And the idea of not actually, like the idea of having the place to stay, like that was the energetic to bring that those 40 years. It's all symbolic. It's not like they're really ultimately lost. Like we could refer to it as such, but there's a meaning there, because the idea is like for a generation to be like, this is how we are, this is our treatment, so that when we have that place, we come at it with this energetic. Because the whole thing with the temple is that they're told that this will not be a temple that's built by human hands. And so, the idea is that Solomon tries to, get around that, because his father David has the vision that this is not something Hashem basically tells him this can't be built. You can't actually, that isn't the real temple. Like the real temple is in the inner world.
It's gonna be like that cartoon Gargoyles, where like they can't be, they have to be brought up in the clouds. Yeah. It's gonna be, we're gonna use helicopters to build the temple.
This sounds familiar too, like the Freemasons, where they have like the cap off the top of the pyramid. But you're not supposed to put the cap back on top of the pyramid, because that's the part that's supposed to be like the spiritual, and it's not to be fulfilled like in the physical realm.
Speaking of which, now the timing is starting to become impeccable, because just 2 weeks, last month, the landing of the asteroid, right? The piece of the asteroid, the killer asteroid, and that's it. The asteroid's name is what? The
Binbin?
Binbin, the Binbin stone, right? Binbin
Did
stone
say that?
Binbin. Well, Binbin, not Binbin, but the bird. What's that bird called?
Binbin.
Well, Binbin is Binbin
You get the
stone is
Arco-Mills.
Ben. That's the capstone of the pyramid. So literally, it landed on the about what's it called? we talked about the last episode.
Are we talking about on the corner of the Kaaba, the stone that everyone tries to touch? They say go back to the time of the Adam.
No, that's the on the Kaaba. You don't know. Well, that's different though.
No, it's,
There is that. There's a meteor.
But that was supposed to be a meteor, right? Yeah, that's the idea.
Bennu. So the asteroid is called Bennu. BENNU.
Really?
Bennu,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
That's
so
really interesting because it's
Ben-
connected to the Nigerian priest.
Yeah.
Our friend, the Nigerian priest, is Bennu.
So NASA allegedly brought back the Bennu asteroid, the sample, and then it landed. Actually, the sample encasing it's the shape of a pyramid, conial shape, and So I don't know, because now that Thomas brought up the Masonic capping of the pyramid, I feel like this is all timed out. Is perfectly timed.
Well, yeah.
For what's unfolding.
Have
right
you guys
now.
seen? Do you guys know what's supposed to happen? Right. So like, I find it interesting because I know some kosher cattle ranchers, and in Texas and in New Mexico. And one of the things they're obsessed with is like trying to find unblemished calf. And like, it's like a thing. Like if you can't get an unblemished calf, like you're making like $1 million. And like that, and your life is over for a while.
Is that like mining a full Bitcoin?
It's more, yeah, it's like mining a full Bitcoin. Dude, it literally is like that. And then you have to, and then the process of like these Jews have to come on a boat and bring this friggin' calf across the sea because it has to get to Israel.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. And the thing is, they're doing it like pretty regular. Like it's not like every day you get an unblemished calf. So it's something like, once a year, once every 10 years, or once every 100 years. Like who knows exactly how often they take it for real. But there's an unblemished calf right now that they did this process where they're in the process of bringing it to Israel. That's been going on for the last
dude. I'm
months.
sure you guys probably saw this. I shared it on Twitter, but the South Park episode with the cow, the heifer, the red heifer. That is fake that Cartman makes because he's saying there's a ginger cow or whatever, and then they catch wind of it. And you've seen this one where they bring it to Israel and it gets sacrificed. This ginger cow episode.
Oh,
so that episode aired for the first time 9 years and 11 months ago. And so and then the Saturday, I guess, was the birthday of Van Halen. Because in that episode, they like bring the Star of David and like the Islamic symbol together to form the Van Halen symbol, and it's just like it's so syncy. It's just like, I mean, I don't think we talk about sync sometimes enough, but that is like that is a solid example of the thing, dude. I was like, what?
But it was weird. It's like theosophy, merging all the symbols and became Van Halen.
Exactly. Eddie gets it. Yeah. There's no religion higher than truth, and the truth is Van Halen. I don't even like Van Halen, but still, it's
Andreas, you were talking about the unblemished cow being worth all this money, and I remember in an article a few years ago, but it was a rabbi talking about how cloning isn't necessarily prohibited, and that you could technically clone pork, and that would be kosher pork if you did it in the correct way. So
right. Yeah,
it would stand the reason that like if you had the perfect calf, you would just clone it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing, right? In Texas, you see clone beef. Alex Jones has made that, I think, very clear to everyone. Is clone beef is there's a major reason for this, that they're trying to get to perfection, to have constantly perfect sacrifices. And I find that very strange. But when you start looking into atonement magic and what the belief is about atonement, so what's the belief about atonement, right? Because if you don't believe that you sacrifice to God, you don't have nothing. You're gonna have to start sacrificing chickens, right? That's kind of where, and it seems like that's a big part of a lot of these religions. Mormonism had blood atonement, and Leviticus and Deuteronomy says like, if someone rapes somebody, they have to like give them shekels and
it doesn't seem like enough. Someone made a good argument recently. I can't remember who it was, but that if you had I think it was Tristan Irwin, who has a bunch of great videos on like Moloch and Baal and stuff, but he mentioned that if you have a superior being, what does that superior being care if you sacrifice an inferior being to you? Because you're already the inferior being to the thing that you're trying to honor. So it's like, how much are you really honoring it if you're only giving it like these tiny little remnants that don't even equal up to you? And even on that card, even if you sacrifice yourself or someone among your own species, that still seems just like so inefficient,
right?
Payment to this like huge superior being.
Well, this idea of reserving one's awe too, and it's like we build temples at the pinky toe of God, and he barely notices them. So we make into this whole big thing. I think that's kind of the idea of the issues around the temple is like you're in awe of something that to you looks so grandiose, but in the grand scheme, it's a not even a speck, you know.
The whole global theme of sacrificing children. I don't know. I feel like the season is nigh right now.
Thanks for bringing that up. Paranoid American had a really interesting experience recently. So
my re-education camp.
Yeah, I just want to show you guys. If you guys wonder like how hard it is to be a YouTuber, I just want you to understand this is what it's like to be a YouTuber. I don't think you guys are some of you guys at home. I just want to say like some of you people at home think you're funny, you're clever, and you think like you could be like doing this. You could do the same thing we're doing, and you just don't because you're busy, but you think you could, right? And I just want you to know, like, I don't know if that's true. I think it's a lot harder than you might think. It's weirder than it sounds. So here's the test that you have to pass if you want to put a video up on YouTube. There's 7 questions. This is question 7. Charlotte uploads a video. This is a hypothetical situation. You have to know
it's like the SATs. Continue.
Charlotte uploads a video interview with her mother, Tara, who formerly believed in QAnon. In the video, Tara says Q said to trust the plan, but never ever came of it. Nothing ever came of it. They said so many important people were involved, but it was all untrue. I'm sure it hurts those people to be associated with such false, harmful claims. After her comments, multiple government officials and celebrities are shown on screen. Is this a violation or not a violation? And this is not a violation because of the way it's set up. All right, now there's another one here. Lewis uploads a video promoting the idea that a cabal of elites, quote unquote, is engaged in child trafficking. He then goes on to name several famous actors, and he claims that they are involved in harming children. This is a violation. This is violative because Lewis is promoting a harmful conspiracy theory. This is violative because Lewis is alleging that specific people are engaging in harmful conspiracy theory. Now, you might have been able to answer this question, and
I didn't get them all right on the first try, by the way.
Yeah, and you might have been able to. You might, let's say, maybe you get this part. Beyond that, now can you drive? Just because you passed this test, do you think you're ready? I don't think you are. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, it's a lot harder than it sounds.
Well, hey, Thomas, do they change them every time, or is it just the same exact questions?
I'm sure they change it.
It was 7 different questions, but the interesting part was this was for my Thrill Oxide documentary, and I'm using the word Thrill Oxide because I don't want to bomb this channel, but the real word, which is the derivative of adrenaline, as it breaks down your system.
You can say it here. I think they
so it was just all I did was I had a documentary about adrenochrome, and it mentioned adrenochrome, MK Ultra, and Freemasonry. That was the full title. Right. And it got dinged, but it was already like unlisted or public. It was like published though. And then I requested a review for it being like demonetized, and then the response of that request was that I got a strike immediately. And I appealed that, and it did the whole like, we're sorry, we know that you're disappointed, but this happens, blah blah blah. So, anyways, like this was a new thing that YouTube just rolled out. I think like this week or last week, this new re-education camp where you can get yourself taken out of the corner for a little while if you behave. But what's crazy is I don't mention child trafficking, I don't mention cabals or elites or none of that in the entire. It's a 20-minute video. And it just talks about the discovery of it through Aldous Huxley, through LSD research, through MK Ultra, the Rockefeller and the Macy conferences. Like it's all just like old, like it ends at 1970, right? It doesn't really get beyond that. Yet every one of those questions was very specifically targeted
Q and shit,
QAnon and adrenochrome and child trap. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like
context.
And I wish I had the screenshot because I can't prove it right now. But when they showed me where I violated the policy, they were like, this is where you were a bad boy and we're going to slap your wrist. It was 1 minute and 5 seconds in, which just shows a vial of adrenochrome with the word adrenochrome print on it. There was no audio. There was like music in the background. So it actually got dinged for just having the word adrenochrome on the screen.
Right. They don't even care.
And in my podcast intro, it flashes on the screen really briefly. It says like a Trump denounces adrenochrome or something. Like it's a joke. But because it's visible, every single video I upload that has that intro has to be manually reviewed now. So just having the word on the screen is no go.
Dude, what's funny, Thomas, is that I haven't tried to upload a video to YouTube in a really long time. And it was driving me nuts that I had made like a close to 3-hour video that I was trying to get on Twitter, and I thought I got everything right. I was like, why isn't it just gets to the end and then it says error, and it's doing it like 20 times. So I was getting frustrated. So I was like, oh, screw it, I'll put it on YouTube. And then I'm like, what am I thinking? YouTube hasn't gotten to the point. This is, COVID-19 related stuff. They're not going to take it. But it was interesting because, I got different things from YouTube in the past than I got now. So what I got was, it was just like, it gives me the video so I can watch the video. So it's not up. They're like, this video is not up. Now watch the video and see if you can spot. It's asking me to find what the problems with the video were. And so, but it does tell you. So it says,
this is machine learning.
It basically said that my video had content that poses quote, content that poses a serious risk of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation about currently administered vaccines that are approved and confirmed to be safe and effective by local health authorities and by the World Health Organization. And I thought that was interesting because it's like, if I didn't used to get that in the past, it's like, oh, so
there's an easier way. Just show a picture of Rosie and Kathy's face and just be like, look,
right.
The end result.
This is there's two paths. You know what I mean?
The thing is though, Andreas, is that like I would like to hang out in that room with them. Like they're not like I just, for entertainment.
Are you sure about that?
I am sure about that because just the things that would get I would be laughing. Like it would be they look like look at their faces in that shot, the way that they're like. I don't know, man. I'm not saying I'm fans of Rosie O'Donnell and whatever.
Like Kathy Griffin looks like Patrick Swayze as he's dying of cancer.
I know, but
like,
I don't know.
My God, it looks like. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not
throw
saying
in Ellen. Call me crazy, but I just think it would be a riot. Like I just think like they're drinking wine or whatever, coolers. Who knows?
I've been interested that Kathy Griffin was on.
She's gonna bust out bloody Trump head running around.
Scott Adams. Scott Adams is now like considered to be the craziest racist, right? Like Scott Adams, who did Dilbert, draws pictures like, here's what's going on with the world, and he draws a picture. This is a black person. This is a white person. Like you're like, okay, you're broken. But Kathy Griffin worked with him, so I have to wonder. Like she must have seen a lot of. I don't know. All right, wait. You were about to say Thomas.
Yeah, so hold on. So
you know what? I'll just talk about these the YouTube the testing the
well said, David.
Think about,
there's only so many limits in this world. Apparently, saying you want to hang out with Kathy Griffin and Rosie O'Donnell is where people are like.
No, I mean, look at them in that photo. It just seems so funny, dude. I feel like I'm laughing looking at it. It's like, oh my God, dude.
I feel like I'm back in fourth grade.
It's like Simon and Garfunkel on an album cover.
These are the women who took care of us in elementary school.
guy.
These are the women that used to hate little boys in elementary school that used to like yell at us when we played. That's what I see. I have trauma.
I feel the same way about Simon and Garfunkel. Like if I look at Simon and Garfunkel, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I just like I totally like just
that's
laugh,
different.
Just to, like...
Who doesn't want to hang out with Simon and Garfunkel? It's Rosie O'Donnell and Kathy Griffin. And we just did a test on how I can't say whether or not I think they eat people. So just please let's just.
I want to just go down this rabbit hole just like 5 minutes longer if you guys are
By the way, I want to point out I clearly think that Rosie O'Donnell and Kathy Griffin do not eat people, because if they did, they would look better than that, I would hope. All right,
no, they're eating each other. Yeah, go.
So this whole experience made me start just reaching because I'm a terrier when I really want to be. Like I can just shack up and
like
get
George
dirty.
Bush's dog. Didn't he have a terrier?
So or like the Biden's dogs that keep biting everybody.
Or the Queen Victoria's was a terrier. Actually, it's a very important royal dog.
No, he had a terrier.
I'm sharing my screen here.
He was part of a terror.
Is this the wrong one? Oh, there's yours down there. Okay, there we go.
So this is what I found out because I was like, why do they have such a bug up their ass about this particular word? And I started going online and searching for all of the banned word lists. And then I tried to find out like what was the source of these banned word lists, who's sending them to YouTube and Instagram and all these companies and saying like, this is the list. Because obviously it's orchestrated. It's not like all these companies are independently coming up with the list themselves. So what I came up with, which I believe is the source of all of this, is the Sufan Center. And specifically, this is a report, April 2021, called Quantifying the Q Conspiracy. And this has some mind-blowing facts in it that I didn't even believe it, but I had to look it up, and it's like legitimate research, and they're trying to paint it in a bad light. But look at some of these stats here, man. And actually, I've got like a greatest hits here. So first of all, it's named after Ali Sufan, who was member of the Homeland Security Council.
You might want to zoom in a bit.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
So oh wow, that was way too big.
Calm down.
Ali Sufan was Homeland Security Council. He's basically the chairman and CEO of the group. Big surprise that's named after him. He was also a former FBI special agent who was involved in the embassy bombings, the USS Cole, 9/11 attacks. He also worked in the Joint Terrorist Task Force, so on and so forth. And there's just like, it's listed of a bunch of heavy hitters that I'm just going to say CIA. We'll just make it simple.
Sure.
We won't read through it all. It's all CIA.
And
but the interesting facts here, man, if I do a search for Pizzagate, for example, can I even say that? Yeah, Pizzagate. They did some polling of people. Here it is right here. So frauder vote adherence. This is questions on voter fraud. Here's one right here. I believe elites, politicians, and celebrities are involved in global P rings. And look at these stats. So,
oh my God,
this is a random sampling. Not just, they didn't just target extremists, right? This is just questioning just normal everyday people. And look at this.
Gallup poll. Yeah.
So it's okay. So they did this poll among 9,308 U.S. adults. And it said those surveyed who self-identified as a QAnon believer, member, or supporter ranged between 20 and 23%. This is just a random sampling of 9,300 people. That seems like a huge number. That 23%, a quarter of the people, or a fifth, self-identify as QAnon. So of those people, those 9,300 people, look at 41.3% in January 6th of 2021 said that this is an accurate statement. How insane is that?
41% of the 20 or of the
41% of the 9,308
of the complete
complete.
So more than people that believe in QAnon believed in child trafficking. They were aware of child trafficking.
Here's the one on the job. Look at these are the stats again for the entire community. And then
why January 6th, 2021? So
oh man.
But look, but the stat it said up here. I can't find. It's scrolling so damn slow. But it says right here, out of 9,308 adults,
it's good.
Findings concluded that the QAnon believers were between 20 and 23%, right? So if I go to this next page, there's the 20 to 23%.
Right.
So this isn't just relegated to only these stats and then these applied on top of that. This is globally. So we're literally saying that almost half of the people polled believed in these celebrity cabals. So first of all, if you're reading this and you're in a celebrity cabal and you're like 41% of just the general population thinks we're doing stuff, we need to get onto this. So
I like that's where you go with it.
Long story short,
can you imagine sitting with Kathy Griffin and Rosie O'Donnell at the pool and you're like looking at this? Oh my God. Yeah,
totally. Well, that's the thing.
I can now after that conversation.
That's what I'm saying though. Like, I'm like, what an opportunity to just watch the expression on their face.
Yeah,
study how study their hands when you say things, what they're gonna do with them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
David, speaking of letter Q, is there a reason why Kabbalah is not Q anymore, but with a K? Kabbalah
anymore? I mean, Q is often when you're talking about like Greek Kabbalah. They'll spell it with a Q. There's certain distinctions, but traditionally with English, not that that's traditional, but people would interpret it as a K.
The Czechs, so a lot of the Kabbalah studies, like there's Spanish Kabbalah,
sure, and Czechoslovakian,
Czech Kabbalah, and so the Slavs use the K. I think
sure, it depends. There's variations, and sometimes they'll use that, and not just that, like just the general spelling. Like sometimes there won't be an H at the end or something. It's open to interpretation. It's not an English word.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah. I just suspect I might have some particular reason for not using the letter Q, but
I do think Q is a very important letter because it's
number
like
17 too.
It's the G that became 17. Yeah, but the Freemason G and the Q are associated because the Q is a kind of G. It is.
And it's tied with the serpent as well. It is the Ouroboros.
There you go. That's a classic Q.
Yeah, and also like H and J and K sounds that come out of G, like Q didn't do that. So that's
I've
like
also
Q is always
heard
strong.
the Q as being the evil letter because it's got the perfect circle, but it's being like infiltrated by the little snake.
See, that's this Calvinist nonsense. Like sex is good. No, the problem is the letter C. C is a little bastard. I think we got rid of that guy. I can't.
C
as a Spaniard and a Slav, I cannot trust the letter C both directions. It's a liar. It's a cheat. It's a thief. The letter C will just pretend. I mean, it's identifying as like so many other letters.
I guess
it's
Q,
the first
Q
problem in our society.
would be kuf in Hebrew, I guess. But
dude,
Thomas, I want to point something like, so you're looking at that and it's telling you the percentage of people with the one that was the lab question. And you guys probably saw this. I don't know if I've talked about it before, but there's the email chain with Fauci early on and 3 of the world's top scientists. And the header for the thing was lab conspiracy, lab leak conspiracy, or something very similar to that. And first, world's top scientists, virology related. So first guy, I believe he said that yeah, this is what it is. He's like pretty much like he's more than on the fence. He's like, yes, I believe it was a lab leak. Second guy, I think it was about maybe 70% sure. He literally says his percentage of what he thinks. And I think the last one said he was 50% sure. But Fauci's response was, quote, "This is a shiny object that will go away in times." He didn't say time. He said in
like
times.
AIDS. Worst thing I could ever done. That was so bad.
So freeze. I'm a cap.
Yeah.
Kamala. Sorry. But no, it's just
come
like
all over us.
There's just this thing where you're looking at people who are supposed to be relating to it one way, and then you get indication that they're clearly just like spokespeople or whatever who are more interested in PR than anything else, even health and safety. And that's what we saw from him. But I find it really interesting that he would refer to that as a shiny object that will go away in time, and then looking at those percentages of those surveys that you're presenting to us, like that is fascinating. And so what you're arguing is that when you look at this book, you think that there's a strong argument that this is the basis for why the words that they're choosing, that they have to censor, that they have to protect people from, they're so dangerous to even discuss at all. That's interesting.
I got another one here for you too, Andreas. Just because we mentioned the email leaks, this is one of my absolute favorite finds out of all the. And this wasn't specifically from like the Clinton emails or anything. There was like a wave of all these companies and corporations that were also getting hacked around the same time, and this was from Strategic Forecasting. And then, long story short, clients: Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Coca-Cola, Dow, Lockheed Martin. They were referred to as the shadow CIA. So this was like the true corporate level version of the CIA that may or may not have been like a paramilitary financial sort of crew. But here we go. The following message appears during a heated exchange between David McCullough, brother of Mike McCullough, the senior editor of special projects at Stratfor. This is his brother writing. This is insane stuff. "You're not going to smoke my pineal gland. Did you know that the alkaloid of DMT is actually a neurotransmitter like LSD and DMT, psilocybin, and all psychedelic drugs? Because the definition of psychedelia is a neurotransmitter that the metabolite itself creates a kaleidoscopic vision of geometric proportions in the P or whatever is attached to the pineal gland with light cones or rods, the chromosomal filtration of certain neurotransmitters within rods." And then he goes on to say, hold on. This is the end of it. "Thanks for projecting a reproduction of Rosemary's Baby with my neighbor. Not you and your family are complete hypnotic strategists to dissuade mine and Senator Clinton's political platform. Your hypnotic strategists have sickened me. Maybe I would be on DMT."
Dude, you gotta put this in a comic book, dude. This is such good comic material.
This is from my book on adrenochrome that I've been working on forever. It is it is very thorough.
Let's get on the art side of it. I'm ready. Let's go. I know what to do.
So anyways, yeah, there's like leaked emails are my favorite ever.
Dude, I remember
reality television.
I remember like Paul Ryan and people associated with Microsoft and Apple and Google before Google. So back in a long time ago when Usenet was the internet and people used to connect to these Usenet servers in the 90s, the people there's a smaller group on the internet and they were more powerful, the people that were on the internet. So it was so much less social media that if you were Paul Ryan from Microsoft and you were a 14 or 12-year-old Andreas, the spy versus spy horizontal Quaker courtness of everything, there was no hierarchy on the internet and Usenet at that moment. So the interactions that I was having with some of the people that were, the later find out, obsessed with research psychedelics that they associated with, magic rituals and these are crystals. And, we looked at pictures earlier from, manifested about Naked Lunch, the idea of the bug powder, right? That this is something it's pervasive all around us. And we think, oh, it's so weird. But if you're running the world, dude, how likely is it that you're doing drugs? A lot of these people seem like they have the ability to have access to drugs. We see crypto statements about Macron in France purchasing CCC. There's Zelensky involved with purchasing research cathinones as well, which is whatever, it's like an amphetamine, it's like an Adderall, but it's the Russian version. But there's these more interesting ones, whereas these people are talking about clearly studying and reading a lot about psychedelia and phanerothems and spirit and the idea of manifestation. And we've talked before about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, this idea of, I was recently researching more about the Moonchild ritual. And it's interesting that Jack Parsons, one of the reasons he was so interested in having L. Ron Hubbard is because L. Ron Hubbard had electronic recording equipment. And that's made its way into you do this ritual. As usual, you have someone in the center. He's doing the seance with the triangle. Outside of the magic circle, there are recorders. The recorders are outside so they can record what happens. And they're supposed to be able to somehow, hopefully, someone's protecting the person who's doing the ritual, right? This is classic. So what does L. Ron Hubbard do? He brings in recording equipment, right? And then what do we do when we start to say that demons are our own psychology? Well, he starts auditing yourself, right? So now you've taken this magic ritual where you're supposed to be trying to talk to somebody else, and you're verifying it with a lie detector test. So they've taken the most magical thelemic ritual and turned it into a completely atheistic or normal experience, right?
Could it be that L. Ron Hubbard was actually blackmailing? They're doing all these recordings, and
so what I think it is that those recordings either still exist with Scientologists or they were destroyed when the Corazon.
I know it gets confusing because it's Spanish for heart or whatever, and that's not what we're saying. But
So if you look into Jack Parsons' obsession with this demon that wanted to kill him and was he's like, this thing is actually messing with the order of things in space-time, but in little ways, like Mandela affecting him in little ways and restructuring the room in ways around him. He's like, I think it's going to kill me eventually. So there's the possibility that eventually he was killed by this thing. Of course,
it sounds like salvia to me, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, that's the question also, because you had Hader, is that right? Haber, and Werner von Braun, right? They were involved with the ritual. They were doing ceremonious magic. They were doing chanting.
Jack Parsons was communicating with Werner von Braun too. They were exchanging letters
at this point. And this is 1950 or 1948 to 50 or something like that. When this
like
happened,
4 or 5 witnesses that say they were there in the room. I don't know if it was a party or whatever, where there was a bet made between L. Ron Hubbard and who was it? Was it Jack? It wasn't Jack Parsons.
No,
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey, I think it might have been.
It might have been, yeah. Where they're saying
it's a little late. It'd be a little late for Anton LaVey.
No, but the idea was that they would make it was a bet on who could make the religion that people would follow, and then the joke is that they both won the bet. But the thing is that although that seems kind of, who knows, but it's the amount of people and the people who said it, the argument for why that they would be there, it's not out of the question. I don't write that off as a rumor. I think there might be something to that.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially when you start thinking about like the progress of taking like a ritual and trying to figure out like what do we believe about it. Well, at this point, people believe all this stuff about science, and they believe that it's yourself. So what do you do with that? It's like, well, you try to prove it's the most yourself it can be with a lie detector test, and like if you have to record it, you try to record it with the best ability possible. So to moving it forward like that is interesting. But the idea that Werner von Braun, Haber, and L. Ron Hubbard were involved in the removal of Jack Parsons. I mean, Jack Parsons ended up, he had the keys to the priesthood.
He lost his clearance. Yeah.
Jack Parsons had the keys to run the priesthood of the OTO
You know
in
that
America.
he
and
is,
L. Ron Hubbard took over with. I argue that Scientology is the official branch after the it's a de facto branch that took over the Western Hemisphere of OTO.
Totally.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
He really got ripped off. I mean, look at it. He took his woman too, and they were
Well, that was her choice too. I know people say like he took her like she was just his object, and he's like, "I'll take that." It's like, no, she, Marjorie Cameron. She seemed like she went where she wanted to go. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be.
It's like
Jack Parsons
he hypnotized her.
She came and she went. But she
no, but the thing is that he actually summoned. He actually used Enochian magic to get his boat back.
Yeah, I think Marjorie Cameron may have been a more powerful magician than most of those guys anyway, because they were so hung up on whatever. But I don't know that. I don't know. I'm talking shit. But you know what I will say is that isn't Jack Parsons one of those classic cases like where like look at Hunter S. Thompson or somebody who you're like, okay, it looks like how they died is how the guy's got all these guns around. It's like with Jack Parsons, like, dude, he's playing with mercury, explosives, all this stuff. Of course he's going to go that way. So that's the thing. If you want to take somebody out who's problematic, but they're over there playing with explosives or have a million guns, it's like people are going to write it off because you really don't know. Like no one was in the room with Hunter S. Thompson when he blew his head off. The shot was heard. Wife, it took a minute, whatever. But it's like, I don't know, I just can't. And so I like with Jack Parsons, honestly, I'm like, that could go either way. That guy was problematic and he probably upset a lot of people. I don't rule out that they freaking just, excommunicated him.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like what happened afterwards, so you've got Werner von Braun becomes in charge of rockets, Haber and Disney and the success of their, launch pad and everything like that. And again, Scientology arises. It rises up very fast. You have other things that are open, but this also reminds me of like the mafia's blessing of who we can't find, whose body's missing. Come on, help me out. The Teamsters, Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa. So you know about Jimmy Hoffa, like, so our friend Scott, right? Like, so David and I know we know a little deep into this through our buddy. Anyway, the deal is Jimmy Hoffa wasn't supposed to run the Teamsters. Shocker.
Yeah.
The mafia statistically is supposed to, I mean, not supposed to, but they a lot of the time in history, it seems like the mafia is believed that they're supposed to run the unions. Okay. And this is true in Italy. This is true, like, although this is why the fiat
I'm
became
a
the
union
law.
member. I can say that, yes.
It's
a goddamn mafia. It's control opposition.
Are we allowed to talk
money?
about
No, but you know what though, when you're talking about that though, it's not the same in any profession. And if you're going to talk about what that means for the police union or what that means for like, it has different appliation. But yes,
the union shut down Hollywood, and so I think we're allowed to mention what was going on recently. I mean, here's the deal with the union though. At one point, it seemed great. They had like some Godfather's nephew in charge in California, and he wasn't great, and he was causing a lot of trouble. And he, the other thing is the mob used to be very against drugs. The 50s, 60s, 70s, drugs started becoming a big thing that mob members could make money off of, and that upset a lot of the families, like the families that go very far back that believe themselves to be royalty from the Mafit, from when during the Maltese period, the Cordoba Caliphate put their families in charge to protect by taking tithing tax. So they're still carrying on that tradition.
Tithing tax.
Yeah,
this is a funny term.
Yeah,
because you're giving something. You're like 10% tax.
It's a protection. It's a protection tax. Yeah, is what it is. Because like, and who are you protecting against now? If there's no Ottoman invaders, you're protecting against the thing that's protecting you. Anyway, you've got a group though that they realize that it's the Godfather realizes this isn't working. Like, because you need to have a functional kingdom, right? And if your son, your nephew, is not doing it, it's not good for the future. So they get to the point where they say to Hoffa, listen, Jimmy, I'm going to like withdraw my blessing from the way things are going right now, which is the same as saying I'm giving you my blessing, but not, because I'm not going to put you in charge, right? But if you arise in charge, I will not take you down, right? I will not remove you from your place. I will allow this to occur. I give my blessing to nature to take its course. And so Jimmy Hoffa ended up, because he, was popular, he ended up in power, but he wouldn't have if it wasn't for the fact that he naturally was supposed to be, and they acknowledge that. So it's the same thing, I think, in a lot of ways. The Satanic Church and the Scientology and all these cults that were replacing Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism even became public in the 60s.
When Process Church usually doesn't get included here, but there's some interesting connections between Process Church, Scientology, even LDS.
Dude, tell me about Process Church. Like they're the ones with the fun logo and the cool British people, right? Like they had those pictures. I want to do some Process Church propaganda art.
Correct. So
Marilyn, Mary Tyler Moore, she just kind of posed with the thing. I don't know how
she was in that thing. Oh, that'd be so cool.
You can find, if you type in Mary Tyler Moore and Process Church, you'll see her standing there.
There's interesting notes here that lead to this being perhaps
the
one
best
of
picture ever. I have diabetes. Yeah, that's great.
This might be one of the groups that was able to kind of keep under the radar and had some of the more prominent members flock to it because of that reason. It's hard to tell. Like, did this one get to fly under the radar because it had affluent people, or did affluent people flock to this one because somehow it's been under the radar? It might be.
I feel like I was in the impression like MI6 and MI9 were involved with they took over this group and used it to take over the royal people that interested in magic that they couldn't control in certain ways before that, because they knew that they had to create, like, there's always a rebranding that has to occur. And it's like the Russell Brand thing. Like Russell Brand's life, I've been thinking about it a lot this month, more and more, because it's interesting what they were trying to do for him. Like, look, yeah, it's okay. No, you're doing it. This is what we want. No, just keep going. Keep going.
Host the fucking Oscars, dirtbag leftist. We love you.
Where are you?
Sex and drugs, baby.
He thought he was running. It's like he's on a fox hunt, and they're fox hunting him right to where they want him to go. And he's like, no, I don't like this. But they were, that is there. You can see they're like, look, this isn't that bad. Actually, you think you're counterculture. You're not. Like, we're trying to help you understand where we're going with this. And yeah, I feel like that, a lot of these religions, or all these their opportunities.
Cults.
That's the fucking
Let's
thing.
call them cults. Can we just call them cults?
This is the
I
thing.
guess.
Yes,
I want to say they're different though, because like Anton LaVey defined a religion as something that gives you 5 things, or at least knowledge, wisdom, power, influence, immortality. And so I think it's important to separate those from like a mystery school, because like a mystery school is not a religion.
Right. Actually,
well, there's this whole thing about the secret, and we got all these secret. We're a society
mystery
school,
secret,
not a secret.
Right,
society.
there's a big difference between
we have
and
things
a
to
secret.
sell you. You got to climb the ladder.
No, if you look at Eddie, if you look at like traditional Kabbalistic text, you're going to see the word for mystery over and over and over again. What is the mystery of the thing? What you will rarely see is secret. Now, if you look at European occultism, you're going to see secret all over the place. And it's a whole different relationship to the material. If there was secrecy in the traditional mystery schools, it was out of necessity. If there's secrets in the later ones, it's not about necessity anymore. It's about power and particular ideas around what constitutes strength. And so there's a big gulf of distinction that exists there, generally speaking. But I will say about Russell Brand is that Russell Brand, when he renounced the drugs and the lifestyle and whatever, and got married and had kids and did this whole other thing, he wasn't just renouncing that lifestyle. He was also renouncing that culty system that was putting him in this position, encouraging him to basically destroy himself for this kind of whatever energetic they were going for, what they wanted him to represent. He was like a modern Rolling Stone that didn't play music. It's just like it's this weird thing. And so of course it's like, I'm sorry, I think I said this before, but I don't care. It was like a week after something that he had RFK on,
right,
saying the biggest bombshell shit, and they didn't know what to do about it, because if they tried to just attack RFK over it, he's going to litigate, and that's not just that, oh, they're going to have to pay money or something. That's that he's going to prove, and it'll be even more of a platform given to that Warp Speed was a military operation, because that's what he talked about. And it wasn't just that; it was that the military contractors helped make did make the vaccines, and that Pfizer and Moderna just attached their name to it. This is relatively unprecedented as far as vaccines go or medications go. You have a strong military component, and that was the bombshell, and they didn't know what to do. So they had been approaching hundreds of people from his past. He was sleeping with 80 women a month. So it's just like, you're like, you think you're going to find something there? Like, and it was basically like,
I think Katy Perry giving a nickname Rasputin is justified, because if you look at Rasputin, right, he's the nobody, all right, but he's got all these like magic bags of tricks, you know, and entice the royal family, the celebrities, right? It's like the what is that, the code and the sex code and next IBM. He's got like. He's got a Dalai Lama. He's got all these actresses from some Smallville. You know, it's like
they're all doing something right. Yes.
Did he suck his tongue though?
I'm a little Rasputin. I'm a little Joseph Smith.
You can see that it's very formulaic. I mean, these occult leaders, they all have that.
Well, because I also introduced a guy who left the Mormon Church a while ago because he believed, like, I'm interested in people that believe more. I'm interested in people that believe more than less, you know. And so his thing is like, he believes that it happens. Like there are symmetrical patterns to the universe, and it's almost like a covenant is a way that you're supposed to live, because it guarantees a future, a particular. If you do yoga, a certain consequence emerges. If you exercise, certain consequence emerges. So it's deeper than just like, oh, I have to think about this and come to understanding. It's like, no. Right. Just like eat your vegetables, eat your vitamins. It's like, it's actually like
that's magic, man. Crowley used to say, he used to equate magic with just potato farming as an example.
Yeah. Right.
Like you do this thing and this thing happens. It's like you don't have to know what's happening under the soil that allows it to happen necessarily. You just see the effects. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, like, it might be that in circumstances people latch on. Like, I realize that I don't know why, and maybe I'm creating this like knowable Tao for the eternal Tao. Like, I'm just talking about my modern symbolism and Jungian archetypes about this deeper thing. You know, like Gadget Mouse in Russia. Some kid puts that picture up on a building, and you got Russians and Ukrainians that both have pictures of this freaking Disney capitalist cartoon.
Dude, are we just gonna pretend like we didn't get like that was like our earliest arousals was just like Gadget because she was hot as hell? And
well, I think that's also interesting.
Like
even though she's a mouse, we knew she was beautiful. No, I think that's us.
And April O'Neil. I'm sorry, it's just like I was of the age, you know.
O'Neil is the mercurial.
I could even feel a little excitement when I played the video game and she would show up on NES. It's like,
okay. This is a specific topic, by the way.
Yeah. All right, go for it.
I'm looking them up right now.
I'm gonna delay our conversation about North Korea, but like, remind me before we go.
I got some. I made a little post about it. People are asking where the hell is Kim Jong-un?
And we can maybe really quickly let Thomas, you find that what I wanted to the cover is like. And granted, I'm not saying you should ever read Scott Adams. In fact, close your eyes. But his tweet's great. Did you realize Robert Kennedy Jr. is the only person who will decide who the next president is? Granted, this is a reductionist argument. He just has to run as a third party and watch the polling to see who takes the most votes from. Then he can either stay in or leave depending on who he wants to win. More nuanced than that, he can choose which states he really pushes to go into. And there are a lot of interesting libertarian swing states. He's going to do great in Connecticut. He's going to do great in New Hampshire. He's going to do better than people realize in circumstances, and that will mean that he's picking the president. I think that's interesting.
Right, but the joke is too is that if the DNC was to get behind, which they'll never ever do, and it's not a possibility, but if they were to be like, okay, because they're a brand, right? But if they actually got behind that, it's in the bag. But no, they can't do that. And so him to run as independent. But the thing is that even though I'm just like, it's an impossibility that he becomes president, I just want him to have a platform. I don't even freaking care. At the same time, I'm like, you know what? I had to eat and chew my hat when Trump became president, because I totally said in 2016, especially early on, I'm like, It's not going to happen.
Until we saw the
president-
numbers. Once you saw
And then you see the numbers.
777, you're
They
like,
try
oh,
to
well.
hide how people are actually polling too, and I've caught them doing it. I caught them doing it with Bernie. They'd switch the numbers between Bernie and Hillary on the news, and all you had to do. I have this documented. I have screenshots of the Harvard website having opposite numbers more than once with Hillary and Bernie, and they were the same numbers switched. So they didn't like come up with random numbers. They literally just flipped their turnouts. And so it's a scam. And so everyone said, oh, it can't happen. It's been over 100 years or whatever since we've had a non-Republican Democrat president. But you know what? Anything is freaking possible. Don't rule it out. We're in unprecedented times. Things couldn't get any crazier. And then every time everyone's so shocked when these crazy outcomes happen that we're like, this can't happen. Black swan theory, man.
I think I don't quite go that far. Like, I don't think he could be president, but because I think it's more like like the little boy in the Never-Ending Story in front of the Sphinxes. You know, he's like able to be a medium for others, so he's able to choose who the president is besides himself. That's like the weird law of the genie for him. He can't be the president, but he's the one person, and that makes the most sense. Like a Kennedy, who is the most American, is deciding who the president is. And it's one guy doing it.
You never know. The thing is that when all the liberals want to say that he's this is the mantra right now, is that he's trying to get Trump elected. Like, that's his ambition. Yeah, right. The people saying that haven't listened to a damn thing that he's said or done in ever.
Well, I mean, if you've got two, it's kind of like having two police forces. So they're competing against each other, and whichever one is two sons to inherit a kingdom, and you have a sick, dying father, and he's waiting to see how they behave. And I think that's really interesting. Like,
right. You know what else is like this whole thing around like the prodigal son idea, the phenomenon of the prodigal son, like Russell Brand, RFK. You look at these people's past, and all these there's like this cancel culture. Whatever, it's not just a Democrat thing. There's cancel culture. Like, people want to cancel people they don't like, but they go after things in their past. And there's this issue where it's like, what happened to the prodigal son idea? What, people can't have redemption? Like, if even for what's supposed to be like the aspect of this nation that is Christian, like this idea of like people like can change their stars. And like, this is
but in the prodigal son, like his father, when he went bad, you know, his father put up with it, and when he gets good, his father forgives him. There's no part in there where like when he becomes good, his bad friends still call him.
Right. Although how does his father know what's going on with him while he's away? Like, he can't be. He's just
I'm sure they heard. I'm sure Hunter Biden made his presence known. The prodigal Biden. That's probably
the prodigal Biden is another story. No, there is no prodigal Biden because he's still a piece of shit. Like, if you like. You got to come back for you to be the prodigal son. You can't just be like, you're a piece of shit, therefore whatever.
You got to remember where you're coming and going from. So if this is somebody coming from evil and he went and became good for a little while and he came back to evil, he's the prodigal son. He's the Antichrist.
Oh my God.
Should we focus on prodigal Biden for the next episode?
I like it.
You know what? Speaking about candidates, you know, I one of the videos surfaced. You know, John McAfee, right?
Yeah.
John McAfee of the McAfee antivirus, and you know, I voted for him. I voted for him in 2016. He was my president. I didn't vote for Trump. Okay, I didn't vote for Hillary. But a video just came out. He talked about how he realized the government he's on the watch list. So he tried to be on the good side of these people. So he donated these laptops to the you know. Basically, just handing it out to Hillary as a campaign, all these things, and these laptops were covered with this virus. And basically, he used the virus to hack into their system and found out who were doing human trafficking. And the interviewer, this woman, she's a British woman, and she just immediately tried to cut off the interview. But that pretty much tells me. This guy, he's like, okay, I know the election is rigged anyway, but I'm gonna get in the game and expose all.
Hey, I want to understand something. I'm sorry, like I'm looking at you banned the adult dating chat, right? You got that out of here. You saw that? Like, do people actually like go to click on that? Like, I mean, would anyone listening
people
to
from
this
fourth
show?
World countries apparently.
What? But I mean, like, I don't understand. Like, how does this work for anybody ever? Like, how does it? I mean, it's just. Okay, whatever. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, I think one in a million is probably, but like
if you're still looking for your twin flame, man, they could be anywhere.
I'm flattered because it means that we're doing well enough. If they're like, hey, this video's got enough viewers, we should spam it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, cool.
So it makes me happy. But I was about to look up something. Keep going. You were about to say something anyway.
What's that?
Oh,
Oh, did I
Well,
interrupt?
I've got the I've got my note
Yeah.
pulled up really quick.
Okay,
I-
great,
it'll
great.
be
Do
a
that.
very
Yeah, that's
small
what it is,
tangent
yeah.
before we get too far away from Gadget or Lola Rabbit. I think is the
Yeah.
other one.
Thank God.
It's known as a supernormal stimulus, and the most interesting version of this one, it actually won a Nobel Prize for these guys that pulled it up. But here's like
This guy
the
might
best
have clicked the
summary of
link.
it is that some birds will have, and I think cuckoo birds are one of the best examples, but they have like a parasitic like hatching sequence where they'll actually trick other birds to take over their eggs because their eggs will be like a brighter shade of blue, or they might have like less
These are
spots
mine.
on them. And the Nobel Prize, when these guys actually were doing the research on the supernormal stimulus, they found out they could just give these birds like a plastic egg that was like ridiculously large, or it was like super slick, so when they try to sit on it they would just slide off, and they would just keep doing that until they would abandon their own eggs, and their own eggs would just like die off. But this supernormal stimulus is the exact same evolutionary response that those birds that are getting tricked into sitting on fake eggs is that when
There's
you see
something
Lola,
about-
when you see Gadget, and you're like, oh, something's happening.
There's
It's the
something
same
about
exact
Easter
response.
eggs. This is the Easter egg thing right here. This is why Easter eggs exist, I bet you. Because, you know, and seriously, in Slavic countries, what they'll do is if you want to have good luck, you need to have a stork that lands in your chimney. And so one of the things they do is to try to lure a stork in is they put Easter eggs or bright colored eggs in their chimney to like make the stork want to land there.
Oh, interesting.
So-
you know, human beings are like the only animal.
Rabbits are not involved. There's no rabbits.
They're probably rabbits involved, but we're not allowed to talk about that.
But this is interesting, Thomas, because I've seen, I think it was like HBO back in the 90s had that show Real Sex, and which is almost often an interesting show that had really like it had stuff.
You
in
know
there,
what?
like
Before
science
Real World,
stuff.
Back then it was. But if you try
Back
to watch
then,
it now on
I
HBO
haven't
Max,
haven't
you're like,
watched it since the 90s, but I will
Yeah.
tell you that there was a section in there that was making the argument that human beings are one of the only animals that exist in nature that can get aroused from an image that's a representation.
No, so that's so old. So here's the crazy thing. I just saw an NPR special where they talked to this lady and she found out, okay, these crickets that like rub their back. So like they're female crickets are looking for the biggest, loudest cricket. So what the small crickets do that are smarter is they find like a hollowed out nut or like the acorn shell, and they put it behind them like a reverberating speaker, and they make 1,000 times more noise than the biggest ones. And this seems to work on the females. They end up going for the ones that have drums.
Right, but that's still not a visual stimuli.
Okay,
like if you're looking at something that's a representation, like we can look, in other words, we can look at a magazine and get aroused from it. How many animals in nature can look at, like, what chipmunk are you going to show a picture of a chipmunk to and they will literally get aroused by it? But there was apparently a type of bird that they found that's almost like an ostrich type bird. It's not an ostrich, but it's like an ostrich. And they found that there was examples where it could get aroused by a shadow that isn't even actually the other bird, but it goes to look like it, that it would actually respond to it in a sexual way.
It was called the incel bird.
I think the easiest test is a mirror. Just put a mirror in the
right, but how
All
many
the
animals are
feathers.
going to get off on the mirror?
I think again, you gotta like vibration. So light is vibration. So the idea that the idea that crickets are getting horny because they hear all that noise, don't lose that thought. Like it's
right. Somebody says dogs get aroused by legs, but the thing is the dog getting aroused by the stimulation of the sensation.
Or do dogs
of the
just
physical...
study Wilhelm Reich and they understand organ energy? I think it might be
Pavlov's Wilhelm Reich
connection. Dogs are smarter than we think they are. Should we try to do North Korea? Okay, so North Korea is invading Ukraine. The Russians have gotten weapons, 500,000 troops from North Korea, and this feels like such a timeline, doesn't it? I don't know what to say about it.
This is one of the packages that Putin's offering. He said, okay, Korea, you send me 500,000 people, and I give you the top secret of our missile technologies, and then
free energy.
China, and to China, say, hey, we'll give you this island. I forgot the name of the island. You can have that one, and then Siberia will be on like a 100-year loan or something like that. Loan it to China. They can extract on the minerals. Yeah, so basically, Putin's running out of people. These countries are enticed by the idea. Like, yeah, sure, let's have a handshake.
Hey, guys,
Russia could be something else.
I have to stand reflected on something. So last week, I think it was, I had made a statement, and even when I said I think I qualified, like I was like, I really don't know, and I was just like, I feel like it looks like this war it's fizzling out, whatever, and we're still trying to milk it or whatever. I talked to one of my sources of intel that's actually in the know and has connection. He's like, no, dude. They're just they've made it so it's harder to get access to all the information on what's actually happening in Ukraine, but the war is still full force as it ever was. Like things have not changed in that regard. I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but I was kind of put in my place with that, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Well,
I
the
had
war
felt
is going to
that.
expand. That's not kidding. It's not a joke. It is expanding. We're looking at the
Right.
whole theater is like stretching out to.
And
cover.
I think we were.
The Chechens offered to be in the station in East Gaza. They want to go to Gaza and defend Gaza.
But yeah,
That's another matter, and this isn't just.
They want.
What are the Chechens supposed to be doing? They're supposed to be fighting for Putin in Ukraine. There's no way we're gonna go to Gaza.
It all gets
say that.
connected when you find out that the Russians believe in, like, they believe that the Tartar, like, they believe in Tartaria. They're teaching it in school, and they believe in this idea of the Lost 12 Tribes thing. And so their idea of Turkey and Israel being associated with the Turan Empire, I mean, it's an inevitability that that's going to become something that plays out.
You got to watch out for Turkey because Turkey is about to leave NATO because Turkey is snapping. Right
what
now.
I think, Brandon, we said that you were saying you felt like it seemed like it was sizzling down, but I think we also said that it felt like they were taking every resource from every state and exhaustively trying to destroy all of it in one spot.
Sure.
And I think inevitably they can't. Inevitably they're going to have to bring it to Taiwan and to Egypt, and that's where it seems like the war is headed in the next year.
It's getting there.
I got a theory that like after after like 10 wars, you get the 11th war free. You got like a little punch card.
Might be true. That would be cool.
The goal is to eliminate
stamps.
500 million people.
Do you want me to cover anything else while you're? Luckily, we have the privilege of seeing Synchronicity's Twitter page while it's still up this week.
Yeah, I am still banned. I still got 16 days left on the Facebook prison.
You got to do your re-education training, man.
Yeah,
I've been brainwashed. Trust me.
We're gonna go to Siberia. It's gonna be great. But
okay. So there's some crazy. Well, I know we didn't get to cover everything, but okay. So Elon Musk just admitted another thing with Amber Heard was that he helped secure her job with Aquaman 2. Without him, sending a letter to the studios, she would have been fired because of the lawsuit with Johnny Depp. So it just really cements that Elon Musk, that baby Una, whatever her name is, right? Una, the moon child, Una, the Babylon working, they generate this baby in Johnny Depp.
Girl is mine.
So so basically, I think something's going on there. So this is the mental health. I don't know.
That's an ironic picture. Oh my god,
this guy, he's lost his mind.
He's like, I'm very concerned about my wife's mental health. Yeah, I guess he came here today to discuss. She literally thinks she's a couch. You know what I mean? She identify as a sofa.
Invisible.
God.
So
yeah.
Okay, so that's just a fire. This
is like, so I always think about this though. When I was in Argentina and there was a fire like this happened randomly, and then we found out it was because there was Israelis who were in the forest that were trying to burn down areas where they thought there was a bunch of German people, which would have been crazy because it was 5 generations earlier that their kids would have been from. But I ended up having to essentially bribe a taxi driver. I was like, look, you got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. Let's just drive as fast as we can. And we drove and we were racing, trying to get away from the fire, which was coming almost as fast as the car. And he's like, this is as far as we can go. And we got right to the border of Chile. We got out of the car and abandoned it and just walked in to Chile and across the border. And it was like, oh, and we couldn't go back for a while because the fire was bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
all right.
That one's. But there are some other headlines, but I don't know if you want to still scroll through it. But I'm not just suspecting something.
Yeah, the North Korea thing is really interesting.
So in September, Kim Jong-un was in Russia reviewing the nuclear bombers, and actually today this Israeli Congresswoman, I forgot her name, but that's another post I made. She was saying that to deal with Hamas, we have to use a Jericho option. Jericho is right there. So we know what happens with Jericho, the series, and the ABC series. They're nuking the American cities, right?
Right,
So,
and
so she's
and also in the Bible, right? You have this idea of sonic blasts being used to
Oh, yeah.
destroy
the
the
trumpets,
culture,
yeah.
right?
Jericho, yeah,
Because
word.
Israel has to destroy, and Jericho. If you go today, go on Google Maps and look at it. It's another Gaza. You know, it's like it's a Gaza from 1,000 years ago.
You got to talk about
Yeah.
Eddie's statue breaking the head off, because that was
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
yeah. So right, so yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because that was the Jewish American visitor who went to the. You gotta keep scrolling down, but basically, yeah, he was. This was one day before the Hamas rocket strike. So one day before that, he started destroying these statues. Particularly, got on the headline was the Athena statue. Her head broke off and rolled on the floor. So that Athena, who is Athena? You know, she's the goddess
Athena,
of war of the Greeks, right?
well, there's
So she's yeah. Go ahead.
Athena and Diana, right? Isn't that?
That's right. So this tourist comes in, he
the-
smashes a 2nd century statue, and he says he has Jericho syndrome. That's what they called it.
Right.
What does
What
that
the
mean?
hell?
What is Jericho syndrome? Right? What does that even
So-
mean?
If you
Jesus
start
Christ.
blasting sonic blasts in all directions and like Guile.
This is not. This can't be right. Jericho Levin. No, that's not right. So I don't know. Yeah. So that's crazy that they went and they used that terminology right
yeah.
beforehand at the Israeli Museum.
Incredibly
Yeah,
synchronistic.
So it was very
Jerusalem
ominous.
syndrome is what it says.
Oh, Jerusalem syndrome.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
still, whatever. Yeah.
What's that?
And that guy was arrested. I didn't even get his name, but so that's very interesting.
Jerusalem syndrome is a group of mental phenomena involving the presence of religiously themed obsessive ideas, delusions, or other psychosis-like experiences that are triggered by a visit to the city of Jerusalem.
Oh my God.
Man who claims to be the Messiah. Yeah, I can see how that happens. I can see how that could go down. That's pretty nuts. Wow. Okay. You want any World War III? Oh, I don't want to see all that.
They're just a lot. Like, this whole week was just jam packed. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
And well, I mean, yeah, I post a lot of things about Israel, but then again, yeah, I got tired of it. I'm like, this is.
Oh
this
God!
is-
Did you just find another Chester Bennington? Ah, taboo families. Ah. Okay, I feel bad. All right. I hope that this episode stays up because, like, my God. But let's go to the sync book and we'll look at David's link. If you go to the sync book and you click on Syncflix, you will find out that David's amazing. He makes amazing art, and this synchronicity art that he's created is prolific. It's existed for a while, and you've got hundreds of movies you can see that are amazing. All with sound.
And you know, I just put together on Twitter that like a close to 3-hour kind of video collage related to I would say medical tyranny and the what do you call it, like the engineering of consent. It's, if you scroll down, I got a bunch of things here, but somewhere I got Jesus Christ Superstar with Antichrist Superstar. I did that, put that up yesterday. So there it is up above there. See?
Oh, here we go.
Bill Hicks right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is
Alex.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
No.
You know, I've been collecting these videos for the last few years, and it's just like certain clips from also larger videos that just really, and I tried to keep it kind of in a flow of just like, you know, yeah, I did a formatted kind of documentary of like 3 hours. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get up, but it finally got up there, and yeah, anyway, check it out.
Wait, what's on his nose? Wait, on Falsey's nose, is it just shine there? It looks like he's got coke on his nose.
Yeah.
What's that Phil Schneider interview where he talks about underground bases?
Oh, Phil Schneider is great. I wonder when we can. Yeah, we should talk about that guy. I mean, I love the fact that he mentioned.
We should get him on the
66
show.
Well,
Just kidding.
I love
he's dead.
the best part is he said that there's 66 people died. Why 66 scientists got killed by the aliens? The number just.
I put up Showgirls and David Bowie's Earthling album while we were doing the show at the very beginning. It should be at the top, second to the top. But yeah, so this was the thing, is that David Bowie had a song that was in this movie called "I'm Afraid of Americans," and eventually they had the radio edit version because nudity. Sorry, careful. Careful. Because
David!
I'm sorry. I said showgirls, man. You're the one flipping through it, man. You know, this is NC-17, dog. But yeah, no, they changed it so it was like they had the radio friendly but they made it so it was like, because for some reason I'm Afraid of Americans was like too bad to say at the time, but it was like an NC-17 movie. It gets kind of weird, so they made it I'm Afraid of the Animals. So Animals was better than Americans somehow. Like
what?
It was
what?
Yeah. If you watch the there was a music video because they had all these versions of that song when it came out, and it was like because it was like
I'm afraid
for
of the
it to be like DJ friendly or whatever. And there was one version that actually was Trent Reznor. So it's a great music video if you look up David Bowie and Trent Reznor doing I'm Afraid of Americans together. But yeah, they had the I'm Afraid of the Animals. And it was like, what? You can't say I'm afraid of Americans? What is so bad about that? It's like you could say, I don't know.
I mean, if you're not afraid of Americans, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Sorry. And
right.
Paranoid American. Don't think we forgot you. 1 second.
Yeah, my big one is the Frazzle Drip Funhouse. I got the domain, so now if you go to frazzledripfunhouse.com, it'll bring you to the Indiegogo sign up. It is launching on Friday.
Ooh, yes, guys. Frazzle Drip Funhouse. Frazzle Drip Funhouse. Well, all your nightmares become real. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this. This is pretty good. But make sure you guys go to Paranoid American and check out his comic books, his stickers, his art.
Look at that brand new package deal,
dude.
Ooh.
That's $33 for a package, and you can get this is a perfect gift if you got a friend or you want to prove that you know that person. You don't just want to buy them a tie. This is the thing. Like, this is a simple way that you can make someone's day for their birthday, for Christmas.
So we just got like a bunch of stickers and your booklet?
And a Chosen One comic and several
both pamphlets and 6 art prints and 16 stickers.
Ooh,
yeah. No, it's a perfect pack. Actually, this is a great starter kit for anybody. And I think you can also, if you just got one, you could share some stuff with your friends. You could split this up if you wanted to, but definitely. Get a bunch of these and send them to your friends because Paranoid American change the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I showed Synchronous. We are the reptilians. If you go to Synchronous on X, you can find his links to his Facebook group, which he can't go to for a while. So if you want to post some weird stuff while he's not there,
just join. I can, you'll be automatically accepted.
Yeah.
But
we have cool people in there. Anna De Afro, who's been on the show, the Welsh part fairy, who's a great guy. He was in the thing, and I think I just got a message from Bernie. Bernie, Crypto Alchemist, let's do a show this week. Let's set something up. Maybe Friday. Friday would be good. So yeah, go to the Synchronous, follow Synchronous,
contribute, and just discussion. More just and it's free for all, really. Just
and jump to tartarynova.com. If you go to the Discord, you can get links to all of their stuff. You can find links to anytime they post something on Twitter or anything like that. You can get all of their links in one center place, and you can have a like, comment, subscribe, share. Join the conversation. The conversation never ends at tartarynova.com.
I think you should plug yourself more at the end of these. That's like you don't share that enough, I don't think.
I'm trying to. It's not just for me. So that's the thing. If it was just for me, I probably wouldn't, because we just did 2 hours of my show. But because it's for you guys watching it, and if you guys want to talk throughout the week, you're like, oh man, I want to talk to you guys. We made a thing for you to talk to us, and you can reach out. You can talk to David, Eddie. You can talk to Thomas. You can talk to me. I mean, we're there sometimes. We work, we live our lives, but you can definitely interact, and you can talk to each other. And so it's a great way. Like, by the end of the week, we're looking at this, all the tech spreads procured all of this information on time travel or on Atlantis or on history, and people are sharing what's going on there. I think it's actually pretty sweet. So do it for yourself. Go check out Tartary Nova. It's awesome. All right. That was myself. Love you guys. I'll talk to you next time, and peace and love. Peace.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
patreon.com/synchronous. Visit tartarynova.com to join the Discord. If you're interested in having us on your podcast, a great way to reach out to us is the Discord. Rafa, we love you. And everyone else, take care. Good night.